Looks like I was finally able to do it. I'm pretty sure everything's on perfectly fine. Now I don't have to. What the fuck? Ah, damn. Hold up. It's still loaded in with the chat and the fucking. That's crazy. That's funny as hell. So you have to close OB. There it goes. I was about to say. All right, bet. I was about to say. I'm not doing testing streams like that. Nor do I really want to like that. Chaz AWOL Discord feed. All right, bet. Regardless, though, I have to react to a bunch of shit because I was not able to react to any of this shit. So now I finally am given the chance to react to this. Finally, bro. God bless, bro. It took a minute. But yeah, I'm probably gonna be. I'm gonna be using. I'm gonna be using this account. That's the goal. Honestly, I might start after this week. I'll see how things go, but I might actually start changing my stream schedule for like my mental health. Like it does suck. I won't be able to talk to certain people, and I might lose viewership. But it's like, bro, I gotta make a sacrifice in a way where it's like I don't want to die. You know? All right. Let me load into it real quick. I'm about to go over to Discord. Regardless of what happens this stream, these last couple of streams I'm still keeping out. I don't know about testing or the other stream, but I might keep those out. They're long ass streams. I don't like doing testing streams. Testing streams are literally just for testing. So when I do see shit where it's like, what the fuck? Like, why is he not streaming? Like, it's called testing. Like, it's called testing. You feel me? Like, don't hate me because there's a live video of my chair. It's just a testing stream. It's really just a testing stream. Sometimes, you know, if it pisses you off a lot, then maybe I might just do a whole AFK stream. But maneuvering around and shit, tonight we're probably not gonna be playing Fallout. That's Fallout 4 at least. We're not hopping into that. I've already come to the conclusion what I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna be reacting to shit. That's what I'm about to be doing. Make sure everything's popped up. Okay. YouTube honestly might get mad at me for. I probably won't even get pushed on algorithm on this, which is cool, bro. Like it's whatever. Like it is what it is, bro. I probably won't get pushed. But it was a testing stream because my gigabytes are garbage yesterday, so I had a test to see what was going on. So tonight we're gonna be reacting to a bunch of shit. I hope it runs good. Everything's perfectly fine. And my desktop audio's on, everything. Make sure this scene, where's that? Scene 3. Yeah, this is a scene. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna start recording on this because I'm gonna edit this. Alright, let's go over to Eco. Eco sent me a lot of stuff.
So have you heard of Inzoi? It's an open-world life simulation game that's set to enter early access for everyone to play on March 28, 2025 for PC. Well, the company behind it, Krafton, sent me the code to the game 2 weeks early, so I've been exploring the game since then. Hello everyone, this is Abi aka Only Abi Doang, and today I'll be showing you 18 huge features coming to the early access version of inZOI that you need to know. Let's get this out of the way first. This new open world live simulation game will still be in early access and will be sold on Steam for $40 US. When you're watching this video, the game will probably already out. So yes, there's gonna be many bugs. Yes, many features are still missing. There are no swimming and swimming pools, no multitasking, no adoptions, and many others. The developers are still actively fixing the bugs and have released a roadmap detailing the new features coming during this early access period. And yes, the game is very demanding performance-wise. Here are the minimum specs required along with recommended settings for different graphic options. For this video, I'll be playing on an Asus ROG Zephyrus G16 laptop with these specs, with the graphics set too high on 180p resolution. Also, I apologize if there's any screen tearing in some of the footage in this video. My recording software decided to act up, but in actual gameplay, I didn't experience any screen tearing at all. Now let's get into these features. First of all is direct control. In inZOI, you can control your Zois, yes, that's what the people in the game are called, with WASD controls like any
Oh, the Doom Dark Ages is gonna release in a couple of days, 2 days. I'm gonna watch a trailer on that.
other third-person games. If you press shift while they move, they can also start running. Don't worry though, the usual point-and-click control is still the preferred main control in this game. You can change the camera from shoulder view to a more top-down view by pressing tab. Direct control can also be used up to 5 times speed, so you can pretty much move around like Sonic. The speed of the game can be adjusted from this control panel right here. Additionally, some objects that you may meet on the streets can also be messed around if you physically touch them since they have this physics for some reason. And yes, you can even directly control the toddlers in this game. As stated before, inZOI is an open world game. There are 2 huge open world cities that you can play in on the early access of the game. Dowon, a city based on Seoul, South Korea, and Blissful Bay, a city based on the US, specifically LA. There will also be a new city called Kuchingku, based on Indonesia, the country where I'm from, which will be available around August 2025. You can also explore the different parts of the world on foot without going through a loading screen, but if you go a bit too fast, you may witness objects and passerby popping in as you walk through since they need to load first. Keep in mind that not all buildings are enterable, only those marked in the map view. So you'll encounter shell buildings like these that you cannot enter. Additionally, if you don't want to manually walk to that area, there are different public transport options. You can take the subway in Dowon or the bus in Blissful Bay. These act like a fast travel option where you can teleport to different parts of the city. Unfortunately, you may have to go through a short loading screen if the destination is a bit too far. Also, if you go to the very edge of the world, this huge blue barrier will block your Zois from going further. If you have multiple Zois in your household, you can have up to 8 Zois in a household by the way, and they're scattered around different parts of the world, you may also have to go through a brief loading screen when you switch focus between different family members, but I seem to have found a way to bypass this. When focusing on a Zoe, move the camera slightly so that it's not focused on them, then select the other Zoe in your household from the portraits here and not by pressing the spacebar. After that, select this click to focus button and the camera will immediately shift focus to them without going through any loading screens. This is perfect if you have a bunch of Zois around town you want to control at once because the loading screen can get a bit annoying, and I dearly miss this feature so much. I love to micromanage my characters even if they're all far apart. Since this is still in early access, there may be times you're stuck somewhere. If that's the case, there's the option for an emergency rescue here. Click on the stuck Zoe and they will be teleported into a safe space. If you hate walking and public transport, then you may want to buy a car. To buy one, use your phone and go to this Dream Car app. There, you can choose the type of car you want as long as you have the budget. Choose the color you like, and once you bought one, it will be safely parked right in front of your home. You can do all sort of things with it. You can wash it, open its trunk, repair it, or even take a selfie with it. But obviously, driving is what you're looking for. On the map view, click on the destination you want, and now the option to drive there with your car will be available. Your Zoe will then drive their car and go through a brief loading screen first before arriving if the destination is a bit far, so it's basically like another way to fast travel somewhere. After you've arrived, your car will be returned back to your home. To summon your car again, just click on your Zoe and you can drive it again. But what if you want to manually drive your car? Well, in that case, you need to enable manual driving first in the settings since it's still an experimental feature. With this enabled, once your Zoe has entered their car, you can now freely drive your car with the WASD key. You don't even need to follow the rules. If you want, you can even go past through traffic lights, drive onto the opposite lane, or even on the sidewalk where the pedestrians are walking. Your car will also be blocked if you hit the world border. To honk the car, use the right click and this will alert nearby Zois to move away. While you're in the car, you can click other Zois to have them enter the car so you can have a road trip together, or forcefully kidnap a random Zoe and take them as your hostage. You can also use the call over function to have them hop on all at once. Additionally, if you hit other cars with a Zoe in it while in manual driving mode, road rages are also a thing and both of you will go out of the car and yell at each other. And yes, you can hit other Zoes with your car. They may only startle after you hit them if you drive slower, but once you have enough speed and directly hit another Zoe, well, this happens. Yep, they will go full on ragdoll physics and then die on the spot. This is one of the several ways Zoes can die in this game. And yep, this is an accident alright, not a vehicular manslaughter or anything, but sometimes instead of being yeeted to oblivion, they will just disappear out of thin air or even be teleported into another area after you hit them. I guess this is still pretty buggy. Unfortunately, the cops won't consider this as a crime, so you won't be thrown to jail for now. One more thing with cars, if you press tab while inside the car, you can go into first person view and drive the car as so if you prefer it that way. Weathers and seasons are also in Zoe. There are 4 seasons as usual. Spring.
Oh yeah, bro, I am. I was like, fuck it. Instead of doing an episode today, I'm gonna do all the reactions I was supposed to do earlier.
Summer, fall, and winter, and the climate for each season differs from each other. The world will also change visually on each season. For example, all the leaves on the tree will turn orange in fall. You can also assign Zoes their own summer and winter wear when creating them. You can check out the information regarding the current weather and temperature on this panel right here. The weather can either be sunny, cloudy, rainy, and snowy. When it's raining, other Zoes will use an umbrella. You can also do so by using this umbrella rack object here. If you don't use an umbrella, your clothing will get all wet. When it's snowing, all Zoes will wear outerwear when going out. You can even spot some snow on your Zoe's clothing. You can customize the current weather by going to the Edit City menu to temporarily change the weather to the one you've selected. Rainy and snowy weather have 3 levels of intensity. At the current stage of the game, there doesn't seem to be any significant gameplay feature with seasons and weathers. I don't think there's any interaction like creating snowman or having a snowball fight. They also seem to be doing fine wearing a swimwear while in the middle of a snowstorm. They don't even get a negative buff or some sort. I guess weather gameplay in general is still being worked on, but I gotta admit, the snow and rain in this game looks amazing. You can create your own poses and animations for Zoe simply by using pictures and videos. This feature can be accessed in both gameplay and character creation. To do this in live mode, click on your Zoe and go to this Make AI Emote option. This feature basically uses some sort of motion capture and AI to generate poses from pictures. For poses, choose a picture where only one person is in the image so it works properly. After you choose one, the game will generate the pose and not long after that, the pose will be produced to your Zoe. You can then name the pose and set the thumbnail for it. Later, you can use that pose in-game by clicking on the same emote category and your Zoe will use that pose. It's a pretty handy tool if you want your Zoe to pose in a certain way for a picture. For animations, instead of images, use videos as the source. Keep in mind that the video must include a full body shot of a single person and that the camera remains still for the best result. The game will process this for a longer time and once it's done, you can then use the animation in-game as your Zoe. I do think that this tool is still not perfect because it won't go into more detail regarding hand, finger, and facial movements, so you may still need to rely on custom poses made by others once mods are a possibility. Also, most of the animations made will result in the Zoe floating in the air, so I hope that'll be fixed soon. As a life simulation game, Zoes can find their soulmate and propose to them. Once 2 Zoes are engaged, they can either get married on the spot or plan their own wedding. In the planning menu, you can set the wedding duration, location, dress code, and the recommended and prohibited actions for each role of the wedding. You can also assign the officiator, wedding party members, and wedding guests for the event. Once you've planned a wedding and it's already the scheduled time, your Zoes will be teleported straight into the venue you've assigned with the wedding guests and officiator also going there. It's a pretty adorable feature actually. You can have the newlyweds walk up the aisle with the wedding guests cheering on them, exchange rings with each other letters, do a small wedding dance, walk down the aisle, sing a wedding song, throw a bouquet, and many more. You can also click on a specific action in this list to play that interaction immediately. You want the guests to do the custom animation you've just made? Well, go ahead, everyone's doing the Gangnam Style now. Also, if you're wondering, same-sex relationships are possible in Zoe, and this includes marriages and weddings as well. So go ahead and create your dream wedding here. Besides weddings, you can also plan 2 other social events from the phone or from the edit schedule window, which are parties and dates. And like before, it's pretty customizable. You can set the venue, event duration, dress code, and the preferred and prohibited activities in your events. For parties, your guests will then arrive to the assigned lot and perform the preferred activities if it's available. There are also certain scripted events that Zois can perform, and like before, you can command the party guests to perform certain activities as well. For dates, you can either ask someone on a date or plan a date together. The former will automatically give you a scheduled date with preset location, while the latter lets you customize the date yourself. Like before, you can set the preferred activities and location. The dating event also has their own scripted events you can perform, such as this picnic mat interaction. If certain interactions aren't available, you can hover over it to see what objects are required to perform it, and you can then later edit it in build mode to add said objects. This buy gift interaction, for example, requires you to have the flea market stand around, and it's such an adorable interaction. Zois can apply to different types of careers. You can either join a full-time or a part-time career, and there are 2 types of full-time careers. Your regular career, where you cannot follow your Zois when they go to work, and active careers, where you can follow and control them in their workplace. Meanwhile, part-time careers are all active. Regular careers have this gray icon, while active careers don't. Different cities have different regular activities and active careers. In Dowon, you can join the firefighter or the idol entertainment industry as your active full-time career, while you can work in the deli or the convenience store for the active part-time career. Meanwhile, in Blissful Bay, you can work in the furniture store or the amusement park as your full-time career, or the surf shop or the fast food restaurant for the part-time career. Certain active careers can have the same workplace but with different areas that you can choose to work at. Like for example, in the amusement park, you can either work as the office employee, the field worker, or the cashier. Meanwhile, in the entertainment industry, you can either work as an idol trainee or the office employee. For the off-screen careers, once you're at work, you can choose the actions you want to do there by clicking here.
I just realized if you play this game, like you could deadass just live your life in the game. That's crazy. Actually, like RP, but no violence.
You may also get these career pop-ups with decisions you need to make, which may affect your career performance. Meanwhile, for active careers, you'll get different tasks each day that you need to accomplish. If you do them accordingly and within the time limit, your career performance bar will go up. And once it's full, you'll get promoted the next day with additional new tasks available back at work. Not all careers have multiple positions though. Some part-time or even full-time careers only have one position with no possibility of promotions. And if I wanna be honest, the career tasks can get a bit repetitive each and every day. I mean, the firefighter career won't have your Zoe go out and put out fires as of now. All they do is work out, have meetings, and do computer work. And I don't think the idols can perform in stage right now. They only train and dance all day. I'm not sure if this is because I haven't played the career that long, but I hope the active careers will be fleshed out even more throughout the early access. Besides traits, preferences, urges, and ambitions, Zois have their own values. This feature is like traits and interests combined. There are 10 types of values, and each Zoe will usually have their value score set based on their traits and desired life after creation. Once you've reached a certain threshold on the type of value, your Zois will unlock new value-specific interactions, but in general, the value with the highest score becomes the Zoi's core value. This value can be changed based on their actions and decisions in gameplay, like if you do romance interactions a lot, you'll increase the love value. As stated before, each value unlocks new interactions for your Zois. For example, Zois with the safety value will be able to spray disinfectant on their bed before sleeping or test the fire extinguisher. If done, this makes them feel better afterwards. Meanwhile, Zois with the coexistence value can wash their clothing using natural detergents, which will give them a unique buff. Different values also unlock different social interactions, parenting method, interactions with certain objects, and many more. Values will also influence the way of life and the urges they will obtain, which is like their wants that can be fulfilled to get some reward points. Zois will also have their own karma system. This can be tracked on this karma meter right here. To influence your Zoi's karma, you need to do karma actions, which have this circular icon right here. The blue circle is a good karma action, while the red circle is a bad karma action. If you regularly perform good karmas, like showing direction to a lost passerby, donating, doing good deeds to others, and many more, your good karma meter will go up. You'll even unlock additional karma interactions if you reach certain good karma level. Other Zois that happens to meet you will also act nicer to your Zoe. And once your karma level is high enough, You can go to the Karma Report menu here through the Edit City option and then intervene Zoes with high karma as a way to complement them. If done, they will get this text message and you'll get to choose one of the 3 different blessings, which are family health, daily fortune, or even winning the next lottery you get. It's pretty overpowered if you ask me. The Rags to Riches challenge using the system will be far too easy now. Now for the bad karma. If you constantly perform bad karma actions with your Zoe, like mocking other Zoes, littering, stealing, and many others, your karma wheel will progress more into bad karma. As you delve deeper, you'll unlock even worse karma actions, such as knocking down other Zoes to the ground or even straight up punching them in the face. Other Zoes will also act mean to you when you're around. And finally, if you've reached into the worst karma level, you can use the same Karma Report menu to scold the Zoe with the bad karma. I don't think doing this does anything else to my Zoe besides improving their karma to the good side a bit. Anyway, when a Zoe dies while in the terrible karma level, they'll be able to wander around as a ghost to atone for their bad deeds, but this feature is still in development, so it's not accessible at the moment. Also, if a Zoe has terrible karma, they may have to face this other serious consequence. If you constantly perform bad stuff, like having a terrible karma, constantly provoking other Zoes, or doing illegal things like hacking into the ATM machine, the police may appear to literally arrest your Zoe. They may also come after a passerby catches you doing these actions and then reports it through their phone. Once caught by the police, your Zoe will then be transported into the police station and spend time in jail. Yep, you can go to jail in this game. They need to spend time for around a day there to reflect on themselves and cannot go anywhere. Don't worry though, there are some objects here that can replenish your basic needs. And funnily enough, you can still use your phone while in jail. After you serve some time in prison, a notification will pop up letting you know that you are free now and can leave the police station. Now your Zoe can start doing better things as a free Zoe or go back to crime if they want to. You cannot break out of the jail as of now, but one of the official streams said that it's gonna be a feature sometime later in the future. As shown before, Zoes will have their own schedules that you can customize. When you first go into their schedule menu, each Zoe will already have a planned schedule to go out somewhere each day on certain time. You can add your own schedule here and have them be on a certain location in certain time. If it's already time for the schedule to start, a notification will pop up and the Zoe will then automatically go to that area. Your work schedule will also be displayed here. You can cancel schedules or disable schedules for a specific day. This feature is perfect if you play with a lot of Zoes at once and want them to go somewhere without manually telling them to go there by planning it all beforehand. If you've interacted with another Zoe before, you can click on their portrait in the relationship panel here to check out your relationship log and shared memories. Relationship log notes down all the notable interactions you've done to them and how you feel about it, while shared memories show stronger events or memories between the two of you that you both share together, such as becoming enemies, getting enraged, becoming friends, etc. If you've known someone for a long time, the list can get pretty long and detailed, so it's a great feature if you want to reminisce about past interactions or track how both of their relationship has evolved over time. There's a 3D printer feature in Zoe if you go to build mode. Here, you can convert any pictures you have into the game as an actual 3D object as long as the object in the image appears clear and have desired details and depth for it to work properly. It will take some time to generate and when it's done, well, here it is. Yeah, it's not perfect. Sometimes the generated object doesn't really make sense if you check out the area around its back, but it's still pretty impressive. Anyway, once you've adjusted its position, you can then place it on your lot. You can also adjust its size
that's cool.
here, but it's still pretty limited. These objects will only be decorations for your home.
Yes, see.
However, you can also change an already existing functional object's appearance with one of your 3D printed objects. Click on one of the objects you have, choose Edit Appearance, and then set the appropriate size for it. Want to sit on a giant sandwich? Well, it's possible now. Or do you want to replace one of your kids' toys with a Pokemon? Go ahead. These 3D printed objects can also be used on your Zoes. The same option will be available in Create a Zoe, and here you can attach them as accessories into different parts of your Zoe's bodies. You can also resize it and customize the placement for the objects on your Zoe in great detail. Once you have saved it, you can find it again in Custom Accessories category in case you want to use the same setup later. Just look at Emily here with her bizarre fashion statement. Damn it, Emily! This is also a perfect way to use actual objects that you have in real life.
Oh, it's a pit boy.
Take pictures of it and bring it straight to the game for you to use. Oh, and pictures of people in real life can also be converted here, but yeah, it's gonna be both hilarious and uncanny as heck. Like in the character creation, you can also customize the texture and color of objects in build mode. Certain objects already have preset textures like woods, metals, and marbles, and you can modify its color using color wheels and its properties like its glossiness, pattern scale, and pattern positioning. Some objects also have different parts that can be customized individually. And like before, you can even include your own pattern here if you have the image file and have it as your object's pattern. Whether you want a specific pattern you already have, bring out some pop culture reference, or even set pictures of you and your friends as the toilet lid, you name it. Walls and floorings can also be customized as well. They even have special effects like a see-through glass, or even these animated videos. Yes, you can also use custom textures on them. Besides that, you can also create custom furnitures by combining different parts to design a unique piece. So far, you can only customize dining chairs, computer desks, computers, floor lamps, and single beds. This allows for more personalization in furnishing your space. There's an optional feature in this game called Smart Zoe. It's a featured collaboration with Nvidia and you can enable it in the settings. Keep in mind that this feature has higher hardware demand, so it's best to enable this while also lowering your graphics settings by one level. What does it do? It's basically autonomy for your Zoes, but on steroids. Your Zoes will still have autonomy without this feature enabled, but it's a whole different story with this. First off, they will now become more aware of their surroundings and choose which actions to do next based on their needs, traits, preferences, and values. You can now read their thoughts whenever they choose to do something and the reason they want to do that. This gives Zoe a much more deeper sense of realism and personality, making them feel more like an actual individual, rather than just game characters. At the end of each day, they will give a summary of all the things they've done that day and their thoughts about it. Additionally, besides through their traits and preferences, you can also give text prompts to change your Zoe's thoughts and somewhat create their personalities. And they may even act accordingly based on the text you write. Like if you write a Zoe to be evil and chaotic, they may choose to do so from then on. However, it doesn't always work as expected. Like this one Zoe I tried to make super positive, but they still went around being mean to everyone. You can also write something nonsensical, like here I've written a Zoe that thinks that he's a cat, and now every action they take somehow ties to cats in his thoughts. But yeah, this feature is still heavily in development, and enabling this really thanks with the game's performance. I hope this will be optimized better in the future. You can set visual filters when you play in Zoe. Besides realistic, you can have this lovely filter with pinkish tint to it, this cartoon filter, which can be a great option if you want a less realistic graphics within Zoe. This also kinda eases the game's performance as well. There's this black and white cartoon filter. Then there's this miniature filter. You can also pick this fisheye lens for some comedy, I guess. This note filter for a more pencil drawn image. This retro filter. And finally, this thriller filter for a more horror experience. Still, the cartoon filter is probably a better alternative in the long run. And finally, facial captures are also added to in Zoe. To access this, you need to go through this menu and follow its instructions. Then you need to install this app on your iPhone. It's still not available for Android at the moment. After you go through it and connect your iPhone camera to your PC, your facial movement will now be replicated into the Zoe you're currently controlling in live mode. As you can see here, my Zoe in-game is actually mirroring my facial expressions in real time using facial capture from my phone camera. And yeah, it looks pretty dope, especially if you want to take pictures or capture specific cinematic footage. This facial capture feature can also be used when you're creating Zoes. Heck yeah, look at my dance moves right now, woo! There are still so many features I want to show you guys, like the entire Edit City feature, applying to universities. Zoes can randomly have a sleepwalking accident so bad that they book an expensive tour, they can get sick and spread it to others, and many more. But that may be for future videos if you're interested in them, because this video is already too long. So, what do you think about these features so far? Are you interested on trying the game out, or are you not interested with it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much everyone for watching the video. I hope that you like it, and if you do, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. See you later!
The JFK files.
Now, I'm not saying they definitely did it, I'm just saying I have some questions. As many of you probably know, over the past couple of weeks, the entirety of the JFK files have been released. In 1992, Bush signed the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act, which is an effort to amass and publicize all documents related to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. However, because of things like the Church Committee or the House Select Committee on Assassinations or the Warren Commission, when JFK's assassination was being investigated, they didn't just investigate FBI and CIA matters as they relate to him. They investigated everything federal agencies were doing at the time, which means that the JFK files, while yes containing information about JFK, also contain information about spies in foreign countries or meddling with foreign elections or spying on American citizens. When Bush signed the act in 1992, it said that 25 years from that date, all of the information relating to JFK and the JFK files was to be released to the public. Because of that, 25 years later, in 2017, several of the documents were released, but they were heavily redacted. And some of the records were outright held from the public. And between 2017 and now, a few files were released. But in January, Trump signed Executive Order 14176, which ordered all documents to be released and unredacted. And over the past couple weeks, this new release has resulted in over 60,000 pages and over 3,000 new documents. And while I understand that's a lot to dig through, I have far too much time on my hands and decided to do that for you. And I know the question on everyone's mind, is there actually anything in there? What do the JFK files tell us? And I will be upfront with you right now. I am blown away that they actually release this stuff. Sure, there's no piece of paper that says, yes, we shot the president. That was us. But there are several documents that outright say things from the CIA themselves that people were getting written off as crazy conspiracy theorists for saying a couple decades ago. New information about Lee Harvey Oswald, fights that were happening between the FBI and the CIA behind the scenes. The CIA setting up fake companies in order to get logistical benefits. These files give us so many new pieces of the puzzle, and I'm excited to talk about them. So if that sounds interesting to you, then stick around after the ad so we get into the newly released JFK files. I should also mention that the sponsor for this video knew exactly what I was going to be doing in this video, and they said that was fine. So that's really cool of them, I think. And that sponsor is, of course, AG1. AG1 is your drinkable scoop of vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients in one easy drink. Healthy habits can be hard to maintain, so typically the easier it is, the better it is. And it's hard to get easier than AG1 because it's just 8 to 12 ounces of water and a spoonful of AG1 and you're good to go. So instead of being a bunch of pills and supplements you have to take every day, it's your dose of vitamins and minerals.
Yeah, this is the CIA files. Well, the JFK files.
Has a naturally sweet flavor that's enjoyable along with your morning coffee. It is incredible what giving your body the things that your body needs does for your overall mood. A lot of you have probably noticed that I've lost weight over the last several months, and AG1 has certainly been a part of that. Now, to clarify, I'm not saying that I drink.
Yeah, CIA fits all right.
But the natural energy and generally feeling better throughout the day made me want to do things like get up earlier to work.
That guy's getting dressed for it.
Not get a second helping every time I eat. From your mood to your energy to immune support to gut health, AG1 has got you covered. If you want to get in on this fantastic product and friend of the show, then there's never been a better time to get in on this offer. That's because right now, if you head to my link in the description at drinkag1.com/Winnegoon or scan the QR code, you will get $20 off your first subscription to AG1. That is right, $20 off. And in their welcome kit, you'll get things like a 30-day supply of AG1, 5 free travel packs, a shaker bottle, a
2-minute ad,
and a bottle of AG vitamin D3 and K2. Again, that's drinkag1.com/Winnegoon or the link in the description or the QR code to get in on this incredible offer today. Thank you all for watching the ad. Thank you to AG1 for sponsoring the channel. As always, it means the most. Check them out, the link in the description, and we are back to the video. We are going to go ahead and get into it, but as always,
it reminds me of like whenever I hop into Fallout or Minecraft or anything, I would want to wear like something towards the game. Like I wear like a Fallout Pip-Boy or like a fucking helmet or something. Like playing into it.
Thank you for watching. So first thing I want to get out of the way is there is a lot here, and I promise I have done my best. 60,000 pages is a lot, and it got into several moments where I was just reading stuff I had no idea what it concerned. Because a lot of these documents are out of order and just put together in one report. So it may be mentioning names or dates that mean nothing to me, that in reality I would need 10 other documents across the CIA records to figure out what it's talking about. So I used a combination of documents that I found to be the most interesting or pertinent, as well as several people online who were talking about interesting things that they found, and then figuring out what file they were talking about, and finding that original file, then figuring out how that connected to the whole. In other words, let this video serve as bullet points for interesting things in the files, but someone who is far more educated than I can come along and do a much better job connecting a lot of the threads, and this should really be viewed as a starting point for people who are looking to dive into this mess. And in the spirit of that, all of the records are housed at the National Archives website. So for all of the excerpts I'm reading, I'm going to display on screen the National Archives database number for that document. So if you want to read more about something or learn the context of something I'm talking about, you can just type it in and see it for yourself. So after wasting enough of your time, let's get into some of the information that I find interesting, starting with the thing everyone's wanting to know about, Oswald. So the main question surrounding Lee Harvey Oswald is, was he acting alone? Because a lot of his movements, especially right before the assassination, seem pretty suspicious. I mean, if he was a supposed madman with a rifle, what's with him traveling to Cuba and Mexico and trying to get back into Russia? And throughout the assassination investigations, the CIA denied any hard knowledge of what Oswald supposedly did in Mexico or Cuba or what his travels were before the assassination. They had briefly mentioned that Oswald was a person of interest, but they never examined him too closely. Well, as we know now, that was a lie. In this CIA letter, we see a report on someone named Valery Kostakov who worked at the Soviet embassy in Mexico City. Specifically, it says, in September or October of 1963, Lee Harvey Oswald approached the Soviet embassy in Mexico City in an attempt to get a visa allowing him to return to the USSR. Kostakov, as a consular officer, handled this visa request. We have no information which indicates any relationship between these individuals other than for the purpose of Oswald's making his visa request. This raises an interesting question. If the narrative around Oswald is to be believed and he was simply acting alone, why was he trying to get back into the USSR a month before he shot the president? Also, while the document says it doesn't seem that Kostakov knew Oswald outside of this event, that Kostakov was just the agent Oswald so happened to talk to, they go on later into the report to kind of dog the guy a little bit when they say, while in Mexico, he was considered by some to be the most effective and dangerous of intelligence officers in Mexico. He has been described as being without morals, education, and manners. Shortly after his arrival in Mexico in 1968, he was arrested in front of a house of prostitution after becoming involved in a fistfight with some locals. Also, to clarify the timeline in other parts of the report, it says that he arrived in Mexico in 1961, left in 1963, and then returned in 1968. So that's why it said shortly after arriving. There's also a ton of other leads concerning Oswald that were investigated and are now public. Like, for example, there's a letter from a guy named Sergei Kazornono. And in a letter that he wrote on March 15th of 1978 to the British Embassy, he says, on July 18th, 1963, I was in London, England at the airport immigration office number 175. I had no visa immigration, placed me under house arrest. Mr. Smith in police uniform, Secret Service, brought me steak dinner and police officer interrogated me. He asked me what the embassy of USSR say. What did you heard in Vienna, Austria? I said I have heard that one American defector, Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald, to Russia and he returned to United States of America. This man, he preparing to kill to assassinate President John F. Kennedy. Now, the reason for the grammar being the way that it is because this guy's Russian, so English is his second language. And he goes on through the rest of the letter to say that he was also told that Martin Luther King Jr. would be killed and that the person that is supposed to kill him, James Earl Ray, is in prison at that time. He also then says that he offered to take the truth drug to tell the truth and that he was tortured with mind drugs. And all of that information could be really cool or effective if it wasn't written a decade after all those things happened. If you want to know how 60,000 pages got released, it's because the majority of them are that. A lot of this information has been redacted or kept out of the public's eye up until this point because it includes individuals who, like, no wrongdoing was found, or private information like addresses or social security numbers. Things that, by the way, are all public now. Like, any one of these people, if they were still alive, you could just drive to their house. But for every bit of good data, you have to wade through tenfold of the bad, which I guess is how the real investigation probably went. What's funny is this guy got a letter back that was pretty much just like, wow, that sucks. Anyway, also a ton of the files are just things like this, effectively paperwork. Like, this document is the Australian CIA messaging the American CIA to ask if America could withhold some of the information regarding Australia whenever this information goes public. There are, no joke, several files in here that are just the piece of paper that says the file is being moved somewhere else. But again, if it was related to the JFK files, it got released. Now, this document related to Oswald raises an actually interesting point. It says that in 1991, a United States professor named E.B. Smith had several conversations with a man named Nakhonov. Nakhonov is deputy to the KGB director. The KGB is effectively Russia's CIA. In this internal CIA communication, which, by the way, not to be lame, but seeing words like temporary working copy, destroy after use, and secret on something you're reading feels kind of cool. According to this internal CIA communication, Smith said in section 5, quote, Nakhonov's first assignment from Bakhtin, he's the director of the KGB, was making arrangements for the KGB-CIA liaison relationship, which has now come into being. Which that sentence alone opens a whole can of worms. But anyway, in preparation for one possible question which might be raised, Nakhonov personally reviewed KGB files to determine if Lee Harvey Oswald had been a KGB agent. He reviewed 5 thick volumes of files on Oswald. Nakhonov is now confident that Oswald was at no time an agent controlled by the KGB. From the description of Oswald in the files, he doubted that anyone could control Oswald, but noted that the KGB watched him closely and constantly while he was in the USSR. He commented that Oswald had a stormy relationship with his Soviet wife, who rode him incessantly. The file also reflected that Oswald was a poor shot when he tried target firing in the USSR. Now, while E.B. Smith can be assumed to be reliable, considering he is an American professor that taught for a while in Moscow and is willing to give information about Moscow to the CIA, that doesn't mean that Nakhonov had to tell him the truth. But some of the little details that Nakhonov mentions indicates that he probably was, that Nakhonov was interested enough to see if his agency had hired or enlisted Oswald to kill the United States president. The mention that the KGB was watching Oswald while he was in the USSR also makes sense, because he was an American Marine that defected to Russia and then left Russia to come back to the United States. So I'm sure they had their suspicions about him, just as the CIA had their suspicions about him, but we'll get to that. The mention that the details of the file indicate Oswald would be hard to control makes sense, considering he kind of seemed to be erratic.
I was playing Arma Reforged with friends. We had a 6-man squad going. Hell yeah. You know who Lee Harvey Oswald was, right? Yeah. I don't get too deep into him, though. Was it the president after? Before?
At least through a lot of the stories we know about him now. And of course, the mention of being a poor shot is kind of telling. Not long ago, I visited Dallas and went to the location of the shooting, and I do have to admit it's not that hard of a shot, but to hypothetically fire 3 shots that quickly at a moving target required some degree of marksmanship. Also, for the record, the last time I talked about the JFK assassination to this degree was in one of the earliest videos on the channel. I proved the JFK conspiracy with a whiteboard, and I'm glad that you guys liked that video and it grew the channel. That means a lot. But to be honest, my standards for research then are nothing compared to what they are now. I've changed a lot of my opinions regarding the case and a lot of the logistics of it. I do think now firmly that Oswald was a shooter. My question is, was he the only shooter? And if he was a trigger man, who was he pulling that trigger on the behalf of? Was it himself or something else? So I don't read this last sentence saying that Oswald was a poor shot to mean Oswald wasn't a shooter. I read that to mean either himself or someone else invested to get him better. There's other things in the files that relate to Oswald and the JFK assassination, but you're going to need more context from other things mentioned in the files for them to make sense at this point. So we'll come back to that later. For now, I want to talk about some other things that came out of these files, because...
Oh, let me turn it up real quick. Turn it like 2.4.
To be completely honest, the wildest, craziest things that we have found out now have nothing to do with the assassination. See, when these assassination committees were doing their investigations into the CIA and the FBI, they wanted all of the information that related to agents who were involved in the assassination investigations, and they wanted all information regarding what the CIA was doing around the time. So that blew the lid on a ton of weird information. Now, again, the stuff that I am talking about today is the things that have come out over the last 2 weeks. But in the JFK files that started to get released in 2017, that's where we got information that a CIA agent had claimed to see Hitler in South America in the 50s, meaning that Hitler survived World War II. Or information about the CIA hiring women to sleep with diplomats.
Oh yeah, the test on the stream. I had like an 8-hour one, but it came out pretty good. Everything was perfectly fine. I think it was just yesterday that it was acting like that, but I was like, I'm just going to leave it on while I go to work, and it'll just be a testing stream. And everything went pretty good. The KBPS is doing pretty decent right now. But I was like, I have to react to shit today. I'm not going to, I'm probably not going to play the game tonight. I'm probably just going to react. I'm going to hop into it tomorrow.
Of other countries in order to gain their favor and feed them information. So many weird shadow tactics have been revealed because of the JFK files as a whole, but again, we're just talking about the things that have come out over the last couple weeks. I had to put a lid on this video somewhere. If I have to look at one more memo, I'm going to scream. So some of the most interesting information that's come out over the past couple weeks is everything related to Cuba. See, the committees wanted information about what the CIA was doing, and in the early 1960s, the CIA's main concern was Cuba. From the Bay of Pigs invasion to the Cuban Missile Crisis, the CIA was trying to find a way to get Castro out of power and to cripple the economy of Cuba so that they were no longer a threat. We know from declassified documents like Operation Mongoose that the CIA was trying to kill Castro and even attempted on a couple occasions. So while we already know that they did hate Cuba, now we know a lot of the ways how they hated Cuba. In this CIA document, which, by the way you can tell who's actually making the document you're reading is by the prefix on the record number. So if it starts with a 104, it's CIA. If it starts with a 144, that's the NSA. If it starts with a 198, that's the Army, etc. Because sometimes the agencies will be speaking to each other, or it'll be a clandestine operation, so everyone's kind of talking at once. But to know who actually maintained the record, which matters, just look at the prefix for the record. But anyway, as a lighter note, before we get into the depressing stuff, this CIA informant, while describing things that happened in Cuba in point 10, says, L1 talked about assassination of President John F. Kennedy, L1 being the informant. According to L1, in 1969, L1 personally saw Fidel Castro receive a group of U.S. radicals. Castro talked to them for 2 hours about why just one assassin could not possibly have killed Kennedy. Castro ordered a reenactment of the crime using his best marksman, and they could not duplicate what Lee Harvey Oswald supposedly did by himself. L1 said that 3 groups were involved in killing the president. 1 group of Cubans, 1 group of mafiosos, and a 3rd group of mercenaries. The 3rd group included a man with a Greek name. For one, Castro saying that one of the groups was a group of Cubans doesn't explicitly mean that Castro was involved with the assassination, because there were a bunch of groups of Cubans he had no control over or even directly opposed him. But that being said, it is hilarious to me that Castro in 1969, 6 years after the assassination, is down in Cuba like, yeah, there's no way he did that. Absolutely not. And then he gets his best marksman together to recreate the shooting, to say that it's impossible. This man is literally me. Now we get into the more depressing stuff you probably expected, like lying to the American press. Because it had been suspected by many around this time that several nonprofits or otherwise legitimate organizations were either just CIA fronts or were allowing the CIA to operate through them. And of course, the CIA denied that, but as we see from internal memos like this one, they were lying. In this memo from the Assistant Deputy Director for Plans to the Deputy Director for Plans, in point 2, the Assistant Deputy says, Early in April of 1968, the Office of the General Counsel made available to Central cover staff a copy of a letter and an attached list of organizations sent to the Internal Revenue Service by Mr. John Frappier of Ramparts magazine. The letter, dated April 5th, 1968, had been furnished OGC through IRS liaison channels. The letter appended a list of 145 tax-exempt organizations and indicated that all were suspected of having been funded by or having cooperated with the CIA. So in other words, this journalist put together a list of 145 tax-exempt organizations that he thinks are actually just cooperating with the CIA, and he published it in Ramparts magazine, but he also sent the list to the IRS, which, does he think that the IRS doesn't talk to the CIA? I don't know. Because sure enough, that's what happened. A liaison at the IRS sent it to the Office of General Counsel, who then sent it to the Central Intelligence Agency. It seems that the journalist wanted more information from the IRS so that he could confirm his suspicions on these groups being CIA operated. So what does the CIA say internally in this secret document? In point 4, they say, a review of available CIA data on the listed organizations has shown that 89 of them were at one time or another somehow associated with the CIA. It goes on to say only 2 of these are of current operational interest. These 2 activities and 45 organizations formerly of interest to CIA were mentioned in the American press during M.H. Dow. Again, a lot of this stuff is internal code words that we don't have context for, so just pretend like you know what M.H. Dow means. You can also see, and it's like this for a lot of the document, how M.H. Dow is written in brackets. That means at one point it was redacted. It was cut through. So earlier versions of this document probably released, but they just had the redaction. 42 other listed organizations, which were in fact associated with CIA, were not exposed during M.H. Dow. We have found no evidence that 55 organizations on the list were ever directly or indirectly associated with CIA. So, hey, 55 of them? Knock it off. Oh, and then in parentheses, he says, because 2 of the names on the list are successive names for the same organization, the actual total number of organizations listed is 144 rather than 145, so. But then they go on to even defeat that point, because in point 8 they say, we cannot say with complete assurance that all 55 of the apparently innocent organizations on the Ramparts list in fact never had any agency ties. It's like, look, you may have been right about 89 of them, but 55 we have nothing to do with. Probably, I think. Thankfully, the document doesn't suggest that they kill the journalist or whatever, at least not in this document. Just ends and says the headquarters that were responsible are now made aware, no further action is required. But again, we have early whistleblowers for government involvement in non-government agencies being proven correct. In our next memo within the CIA, we're given information about something known as truth tapes. In 1965, it seems that the CIA was producing these recordings that were supposed to be from independent parties, but were, again, the CIA. And they would distribute these recordings to be played at radio stations in Latin America and North America as a form of propaganda. And in this memo, we hear an update about an office that's conducting this in New Orleans. It says the current program of INCA, which is the Information Council of the Americas, is primarily concerned with the dissemination of taped recordings of anti-communist material called truth tapes to certain radio broadcasting stations in Latin America and North America for use as a weapon against communist penetration in the Americas. And the rest of the document goes on to give status updates regarding the organization, but this is more confirmation of the CIA pretending to be voices of the people. I should also mention that a lot of this isn't any new news for a ton of people, especially people who have kept up with government documents in the past.
What's up, JCB? How you doing, man?
Several decades. There's been several documents and reports that have come out related to truth tapes. It's not like this is any huge new news. But what is huge is that this is, for one, coming directly from the National Archives, and there are now 0 redactions to this stuff. So things like names, dates, and addresses are on full display. And again, while a lot of this has come out in previous releases of the JFK files, new information is being added. So again, we're covering everything that's new this week. All right, here's where we get into the fun stuff. So this dispatch regards the Special Activities Report on JM Wave's relationship with Carbon 1. JM Wave was a CIA post that was just south of the University of Miami in southern Florida. JM Wave comes up a ton of these documents because it was one of the closest CIA locations to Cuba. So it plays a major role in things like the Bay of Pigs invasion and the Cuban Missile Crisis. And Carbon 1 is a code name for a journalist at the Miami Herald who was working with the CIA. What does the CIA say about him? Well, in the introduction to this paper, they say, the recommendation was made that JM Wave be given approval to contact the...
Fall stuff's going pretty good. I'm just doing Game of the Year right now. I'm about to start back up on episode 15 tomorrow. But today I was like, I'm just going to react to some clips, react to different type of videos, get some clips out of this.
Major South Florida news media in an attempt to work out a relationship with these news media, which would ensure that they did not turn the publicity spotlight on those QBARC activities in South Florida, which might come to their attention. QBARC is an internal reference to the CIA itself. So the CIA was communicating and making relationships with journalists so that the journalists would not talk about what the CIA was doing. Thus, when a relationship was established with Carbon 2, it was carefully cultivated in order that JM Wave might be able to use this contact at the Identity 3. Identity 3 means a newspaper publishing or like news outlet, as a means of achieving the objective of having a relationship with the Identity 3, which would simultaneously ensure the security of JM Wave's operations and give JM Wave an outlet into the press, which could be used for surfacing certain select propaganda items. So not only to keep the news from talking about them, but to get the news to talk about what we want them to talk about. If anyone ever calls me a conspiracy theorist again, I'm gonna punch him. In point 2, it says, in this review, Carbon 2 pointed out that it was the policy of the Identity 3, again a news outlet, that it would take no action which would purposefully embarrass QBARC or its South Florida operations. So that is a supposedly freely spoken American press outlet saying that they would never do anything to hurt the CIA. As a result, if any embarrassing items relative to QBARC's operations in South Florida did come to the attention of the Identity 3, this material would be brought to Rootman's immediate attention. Rootman is a code for the CIA agent who's operating with them directly. The point was also made that Carbon 1 should not press for the obtaining of classified information, but he should be alert to steering tips which Rootman might furnish him on fast-breaking news stories. Carbon 1 indicated that he understood the frame of reference which had been outlined by Carbon 2. These are two journalists at the same place. This frame of reference has prevailed through JM Wave's relationship with Carbon 1 during the period of December of 1962 to March of 1964. So they can't ask for any classified information, but they need to tell the CIA when something important happens. It's so weird reading this stuff and kind of peeking behind the veil because they just say everything outright. Like in point 5, it says operational support. On occasion, Carbon 1 is used to carry out certain operational support tasks. In such instances, Carbon 1 makes his inquiries or carries out the required action within the context of his normal journalistic activities. The use of Carbon 1 for operational support tasks enables JM Wave to harness the investigative facilities of the Identity 3. Several examples of how Carbon 1 has been used in operational support tasks are outlined below. And it goes on to list a ton of useful information that has been passed on to the CIA through this asset. And some of this you may be thinking is fine. And there are some instances. Like there's a case where Carbon 1 told the CIA that there were reports of Cubans hiding missiles in caves near U.S. soil. So some stuff like that, it's like, I get it. I understand why the press would pass that along. But in other cases, it's just to cover their own skin. Like here it says that in October of 1963, Carbon 1 informed JM Wave about the flood of telephone calls which were being received at the Identity 3 relative to so-called QBARC vessels which were located in South Florida waters. And a couple things to note. For one, the reason that you
Yeah, journalists do that a lot too. They scam us a lot. It's like a lot of propaganda. That's crazy though.
probably don't want to be super chummy with these guys is because, as we're going to talk about in a bit, they were not always the altruist. They weren't doing a lot of this stuff to just look good in the press and help people, especially when it comes to Cuba. There were some wild things happening. And two, and I really mean it because all the names are declassified now, do not harass, I think all these people are dead, but do not harass the memory or anyone associated with these people. While, yes, a lot of this sounds bad, and I disagree with it, you have to understand that the CIA would not approach these people in a friendly manner. While I'm sure there were some cases of willing corroboration, when an organization like that comes up to you and says you're going to help them out, you kind of have to help them out. At least if you want to maintain any public face or have your company maintain a public face. Point 7. Amcarbon-1 has been used successfully during the period covered by this report as a propaganda outlet through which items of interest to QBARC, the CIA, could be surfaced in the free world press. And then they list a bunch of cases of that happening. And what's so crazy about this, since everything is declassified now, at the end of the report, they just have a picture of the news article that just tells you it's the Miami Herald, and it gives like the author's name and everything. Like, it's so wild. There's some interesting field reports, like here an agent in Cuba says that a man named Jose Xavier Cortez is passing himself off as a priest when he's actually not one, and says some things like, in Cuba, the Knights of Columbus are well entrenched. Again, another rabbit hole for another day. There's a bunch of documents that just kind of expand on the level of espionage that the CIA has, like here where it says that there's going to be a meeting of communist sympathizers in Paris, and the CIA already has people there. I haven't seen it in the reports I've read, but I've heard people talking about the JFK files, and they mention a file somewhere that says at some meeting in France, or maybe it was within the French embassy, that there were more people there who were either CIA agents or CIA liaisons who were like paid off by the CIA than people that weren't. So in a French political meeting, more people in the room are with the Central Intelligence Agency than otherwise. Again, I think that came from one of the earlier dumps of information in the JFK files, but regardless is insane. There's also some documents like this one that show you the National Archives history of this stuff, where it goes from being accepted to some parts being redacted to some parts being unredacted, and eventually to the release we have now. Now, there are some internal memos that give an idea of what the CIA was thinking during a lot of these historic events, why they were so paranoid. This intelligence report comes from JM Wave to the director of the CIA. That is information they gathered from an agent stationed in Cuba. The agent says that on October 11th, 1963, again in Cuba, 6 large trailer trucks entered Torrens, and on October 9th, 10 more of these large trailer trucks entered the base. An unidentified driver of a vehicle traveling behind one of the trucks reportedly observed tube-like objects which protruded at least 1 meter beyond the truck bed of one of the trailers, when by chance the wind blew to one side of the tarpaulin covering the trailer's cargo. And considering that this base in Cuba was suspected of having surface-to-air missiles, the CIA thought that Cuba was putting together a larger missile array, supposedly to use against the United States. So of course the solution to that, as you could imagine, is to threaten the Miami Herald. Speaking of weird things that the CIA did involving Cuba, this one is wild. Okay, so for context, in May of 1959, the New China News Agency opened an office in Havana in the El Medico building, which is occupied partly by business concerns and partly used for residential apartments. So China puts a news agency in Havana inside of a building that has some apartment rooms in it. Well, the CIA can't let that happen, so it says shortly thereafter, the Havana station, talking about the CIA station in Havana, obtained the concurrence of Ambassador Bonzel and Miss Carolyn O. Stacy, an embassy employee, to mount an audio operation against the New China News Agency through the wall of the adjacent apartment in which Miss Stacy lived. So in November of 59, it says they installed a microphone and tape recorder inside of Miss Stacy's apartment to listen to the news agency next door. But by 1960, the Chinese news agency had expanded to more parts of the apartment building, and I guess the CIA's microphones couldn't hear that far. So a case officer named Brian Mills goes down, and he rents a room that is not next to the Chinese operation. It's above it and I guess further across the room. So after he rents that room, he puts a team in that room to listen down on what the news agency is doing. And it says that a group of technicians go down and installed a probe microphone and tape recorder in the apartment obtained by Mills over the NCNA office. About this time, the equipment was removed from Miss Stacy's apartment with the exception of the plastic probe, which was left in the wall and plastered over. So they have enough stuff on top of the news agency. They don't need Miss Stacy's room next to the agency anymore. As an additional security precaution to provide a safe haven, and after consultation with the acting chief of station, a key to an apartment in the same building leased by Mrs. Marjorie Lennox, an embassy secretary, was obtained. Mrs. Lennox was told that access to her apartment was needed for photographic surveillance purposes. So they find someone else who is staying in the building and get her to give them a key for photographic purposes, I guess assuming that they need to take photos of something across the street or whatever, not knowing that it's actually so they can spy on other people in the same building. So they're lying to even the people who are giving them a safe haven. But then things get complicated because it says that the owners of the building were canceling subleasers' contracts and recalling leases. So in other words, they'd probably have to vacate the space soon. So they decide, well, if we can't be in the room, we'll just install transmitters in the room, and then we'll just set up a listening post nearby, and someone else will be living in that space, but we'll still be spying out of it. So they send another 3-man team to Havana to install all this stuff. But then on September 14th at midnight, someone who, I'm not kidding, their name is Christ, was one of the technicians working on the apartment, says, failed to keep a scheduled appointment with Neat. At 1 a.m. on the 15th of September, the apartment of Mrs. Lennox was entered into and searched by Cuban authorities, and she was taken into custody. So the first girl who they were using as a listening post originally, she gets arrested because I guess they get privy to what's going on here, the Cuban authorities. But then it says at 3:40 the next day, September 15th, Neat, the stay-behind agent, and his wife were picked up by the Cuban authorities and detained. So everyone who was installing these microphones got arrested. Christ failed to have an appointment with Neat, and therefore Lennox was arrested. Completely unreadable by modern standards. And at the time of writing this, the agents are still under arrest. So I think Neat's actually a typo. I think it's Nest, but I'm going to keep saying Neat. And point 8, it says, according to articles in the Cuban papers, the 3 technicians were arrested while in the apartment over the NCNA office and completing the installations of the equipment. The press article adds that the keys to Mrs. Lennox's apartment was found on one of the technicians who identified the apartment to which it belonged. All Cuban press releases have referred to the men by alias and have not identified them as government or agency employees. So thank God. They can be in jail, that's fine, but as long as they don't know we hired them. It is unclear at present what story has been agreed upon by the technicians and station personnel to be used in the event that they were caught. While being interrogated with Neat, Christ indicated that Neat was his boss, and Neat consistently denied any knowledge as to why he was being held. The sublease for the apartment in which the men were caught is in the name of the stay-behind agent, with the original lease being in the name of Mills, the FE Division's case officer. So everything's like 5 degrees of separation removed, so it doesn't tie back to the agency. So a lot of the rest of the document talks about what's to be done with these agents because they're effectively being charged with espionage against China, and the CIA is talking internally about they don't really know if they can do anything for them without, revealing that the CIA was involved, and they can't let that happen because then that's like, an act of war. There's a funny note at the end where it says, insofar as the families are concerned, one of the technicians is a bachelor presently on home leave between 2 tours in Japan. His father, a cook in a diner in the Boston area, has been contacted by the Office of Security, and he will get in touch with security if he receives any inquiries on the matter. So it's like, okay, we've notified the one's dad. The other one, it says in point 13, the wives of the other 2 technicians have been told what has happened and are being contacted at least once daily by TSD staffers and their wives who have been briefed on the situation. A conference with the 2 wives was held on September 19th to go over the whole situation and determine if there was any personal problems on which the agency could be of help. For the time being, the wives are telling their neighbors that their husbands are on a trip. The story will be adjusted depending on what course of action the Cuban government takes, whether the aliases remain unbroken, and whether recognizable photographs of the individuals are released to the press. The 2 wives so far have been taking the bad news exceedingly well. Hey, so we hired your husband to go set up a listening post at the Chinese embassy in Cuba, and they both got arrested. And we can't really do anything about it because, like, oh no, the CIA, am I right? So if you could tell all of your neighbors that they're on vacation or cheating on you or something, I don't know. And we'll keep doing that lie unless the Cuban government posts their face, and then we'll say they're like traitors or something. Is that okay? And the wives are like, yeah. This is so insane. I swear. Like, if so much of the stuff in here is like, if you wrote it into a movie, it would be too unbelievable. There is an attached reply that talks about the task of getting these guys out of custody, but sadly, the file is so corrupted, it's hard to read. In mission, I believe it says the 145th or 1045th operational evacuation and whatever group provides black air transportation something to CONUS, the continental United States, to the designated area. So it sounds like they were trying to do a black air operation, which essentially means an off the books air operation to get these guys out of Cuba. So it looks like from the skewed text that a flight out of Mexico was being used. And in the rest of the text, it says that they're putting together a C-45 to transport these guys out of Cuba and then get them back to the United States in 15 hours. So surprisingly, they didn't just leave them there for whatever that's worth. I don't know how they got them out of custody and onto a runway to get into a C-54 to get to Mexico, but whatever. Documents like this kind of give you an idea into what the CIA was doing in the 50s and 60s, and it's also just a really wild story that would be hard to believe had it not come directly from the CIA's own office. Because from using people's rooms to spy on people in the building and then having these secret flights to get people out of the country, it's really wild stuff. It'd be cool if they were, cool. Some documents like this one just indicate that the CIA had plants near people like Che Guevara, as you could probably imagine. Similar to the thing mentioned earlier about Rampart doing a piece on companies that are actually CIA fronts or have CIA ties. This document talks about a business called Ace Marine Survey Incorporated that is actually a JM Wave cover facility. In the description for this business, it says this is a Florida corporation established by and under the control of JM Wave and certified to do business in Florida. Ace Marine Survey Incorporated was formerly known as Ace Cartography Company, a corporation which had been certified to do business in Florida on the 11th of June, 1962. This corporation was amended on November the 4th of 66 to its new name, Ace Marine Survey. Ace Marine Survey is engaged primarily in marine research, including the study of marine life and testing marine equipment. However, its general provisions permit it to perform almost any corporate function. Use. JM Wave use of the corporation is to provide cover for a maritime vessel, the MV Sonora. Corporation provides status cover and payrolling of the agents assigned to the MV Sonora and the safe area or berthing site from which the vessel operates in the performance of its ostensible business. It goes on to say that the corporation was providing status cover and payrolling for 10 Cubans as of January 31st, 1967. So we have records of a business that publicly looks like a center for marine studies, but in reality is just so the CIA can have boats near Cuban waters. And the 10 people that work there, if anyone was to investigate it, looks like they are actually payrolled by the company and everything is straightforward, when in reality, everything is CIA. There's letters like this about the CIA internally checking up on people who have some degree of influence but seem to have communist sympathies. Like, here's a letter internally about someone named Courtwood, the son of an attorney named Fosterwood, who it says appears to be actively engaged in the organization of a local chapter of the
Bro, I gotta pee.
Fair Play for Cuba Committee. So again, if someone was suspected of having communist ties, the CIA was doing checkups on them. Here's a document where a CIA agent or operative was tailing someone, and the person they were tailing threw a receipt in a trash can, so the agent dug out the receipt and then made record of it. So here's an interesting file that doesn't really have to do with the CIA or like things around the assassination, but it's just a folder about someone named Abram Shays. But then there's actually a note regarding the House Select Committee of Assassinations, which was the committee that was put together to review the assassinations of JFK and MLK. And they have a note attached that says, a review of the House Select Committee on Assassination volumes did not surface an Abram Shays, but an Abraham Shays, a legal advisor to the State Department, who maintained that at the time Oswald received his visa to enter Russia from the Soviet embassy in Helsinki, normally 1 week would elapse between the time of a tourist application and the issuance of a visa. It would appear that Abram and Abraham are not identical to each other. Betty Litchenfield of the House Select Committee reviewed the file on August 17, 1978, and that this guy was a Harvard Law School professor who attended a Pugwash conference in Munich in 1977. So to show how thorough the House Select Committee was, this guy isn't even the same guy who they're looking for. They're looking for a guy who made one statement that Oswald should have taken longer to get his visa. And then there's this other guy who has a similar name who they still put the whole report on and turned it over and said it's probably not relevant, but just in case. Again, it's for reasons like this that there are so many files. There's a letter here from an anti-Castro Cuban guerrilla fighter who was being held in a Cuban prison, and he wrote a letter requesting more money for guerrilla forces, indicating, that the CIA was funding guerrilla forces in Cuba, even though they historically denied that kind of thing a lot. And would you look at this, a document that details a shipment of 20 pistols, 6 submachine guns, and 1 bazooka, which is cargo that was dropped off to Cuban guerrilla fighters. And then a note at the end that says, also report 2 successful drops. Each drop consisted of 63 submachine guns. So would you look at that, money and guns going to Cuban fighters, even though publicly they were very against that sort of thing. There's one document in here somewhere. I think I lost it, and I'm not going through the 80,000 pages to find it again, but it was over maintenance and attaching a rear sight to an FAL rifle, which an FAL rifle is a rifle that was used by a lot of like European forces and like South American countries around this time, but the United States never adopted. So why would the United States have things related to the operation of the rifle? Probably so they could send weaponry like that to places like Cuba and it not be directly associated as a United States shipment or, something like that. What do I know? Here we get an interesting memo from within the CIA relating to someone named John Garrett Underhill, and specifically an article from Ramparts concerning him. Ramparts was really testing the CIA's patience, it would seem, around this time. So the CIA memo quotes the Rampart article by saying, "The day after the assassination, Gary Underhill left Washington in a hurry. Late in the evening, he showed up at the home of friends in New Jersey. He was very agitated. A small clique within the CIA was responsible for the assassination," he confided, "and he was afraid for his life and probably would have to leave the country." Less than 6 months later, Underhill was found shot to death in his Washington apartment. The coroner ruled it suicide. A researcher and writer on military affairs, he was on a first-name basis with many of the top brass in the Pentagon. He was also on intimate terms with a number of high-ranking CIA officials. He was one of the agency's unpeople who performed special assignments. At one time, he had been a friend of Samuel Cummings of...
Nah, I haven't watched that. I might have to cut this one a little bit short. It is like 40 minutes. An hour. I got deep into that one though. Let's go to Mumkeys Declassified. Is it the same one?
In a world full of affordable healthcare, insane livable wages, and economies where 1% of citizens don't own 40% of the wealth, Mumkey Jones, that's me, and my 2 best friends try to do the impossible. Create a guide to help you survive capitalism.
Coming up, looking out, I'll survive, no doubt. Never fear, bring it on, break it down, what's in my way?
Monkey's Declassified Capitalism Survival Guide. Your results may vary. Capitalism is the lie that rich people tell poor people to keep them docile. This lie rests on the foundation of the popular fallacy, anyone can be rich if they work hard enough. When they say anyone, what they really mean is the vast minority of people, as 65% of Americans born into poverty will die in poverty, and only 8% of them will end up making six figures. So chances are, if you're born into poverty, then no matter how hard you work, you're gonna die there. But don't worry though, that's why I'm here, to teach you the tips and tricks that will help you survive capitalism. Chapter 1: Gambling. If you're born into poverty, one of the only ways you can become rich is by gambling. You might think that the best way to gamble your way into a higher social class would be by winning the lottery. But as it turns out, you only have a 1 in 175 million chance of hitting it big. That's why I recommend gambling in a high-stakes game that has a slightly higher chance of success: going to college. Now, college is a big gamble. The average college graduate owes $37,000 in student loan debt. And there's no guarantee they'll find a job that reflects their level of education or even a job at all. In fact, 51% of college graduates end up in a job that doesn't even require their college degree. Plus, it takes the average college graduate 21 years to pay off their student debt.
Wow, 21 years of debt just to be an assistant manager at Starbucks? What a waste of time and money!
That's what you get for majoring in African chimpanzee studies, you stupid ape.
At least I didn't suck my professor's cock just to get a B-, you disgusting fucking whore!
If you graduate from college but can't find a job to help you pay off your tremendous debt, then there's one quick and easy way to get out of it: kill yourself. Those debt collectors can come knocking on your casket all they want, but why should you care? That's your family's problem now. And now you're probably thinking, wow, all of that debt sure does sound risky. Maybe I'm better off not going to college. Well, think again, retard! If you don't go to college, then you're pretty much fucked for life. The value of a high school diploma has been on the decline for the last 40 years, and the average high school graduate earns almost half as much as those with a college degree.
Wait, so if I don't go to college, then I'm fucked. And if I do go to college, then I'll have a massive financial burden, and there's a good chance I'll end up being fucked anyway?
That's right, Jumpkey.
Wow, that's, Well, I want to fuck Jane Goodall, I guess.
Chapter 2: How to Stay
What
Alive
the-
Without a Livable Wage. So yeah, if you're born into poverty, then chances are you're gonna stay there. Luckily, I've got a bunch of tips and tricks to make a livable budget out of an unlivable income. Let's do a little bit of monkey math. Realistically, your dumbass won't be able to get a decent low-skilled job because they all require 10 years of experience. So you'll be stuck working for minimum wage. The legal minimum wage in the United States is $7.25 per hour in most areas. So let's take that $7.25 times 40 hours a week minus about 30% for taxes, multiplied by 4, and that leaves you with about $812 per month. If you're lucky, you'll find an apartment to rent for around $500 per month, depending on where you live. Then you've got to pay for your car loan, gasoline, insurance.
It's crazy you say that because I literally looked in the corner and I see, why don't these kids just work harder? That shit's crazy, bro.
Insurance, utilities, student loan, and Monkey Jones's Patreon. And that'll leave you with about negative $180 left for food. Meanwhile, Richie Big Bucks will be raking in 7 figures a month while sitting on his ass just because he was born into a wealthy family. But remember, capitalism is all about hard work. And clearly, Richie Big Bucks is working harder than you since he has more money. So maybe next time you're starving to death after clocking out from an 8-hour shift at the factory, you should consider working harder. Now you're probably thinking, But Monkey, I need food to live. How am I supposed to survive on a food budget of negative $180? Well, don't worry. I'm a master of eating for free. Just follow these tips and tricks and you'll be eating like a true capitalist. The dark secret that the restaurant industry doesn't want you to know is that they've got a lot of free shit in there. Just past the counter where you're supposed to order food, they've got all sorts of free condiments, seasonings, napkins, you name it. So to eat for free, you've just got to go to as many fast food restaurants as possible and take handfuls of the free shit. It's perfectly legal. However, you probably don't want anybody to notice what you're doing because that would be extremely embarrassing. So you should try to dress as inconspicuously as possible. In hindsight, it was probably a mistake for me to wear my Kakashi jacket.
Mustard.
Yeah, that's right. You watch?
I won't be able to figure that out.
Maybe. You ever finish it? It's like 10 years long.
More than 20.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that Naruto died?
Naruto died? No, I didn't know that.
And
But
Naruto, it shows that Naruto is dead.
well,
And Naruto, Naruto's son, who surpasses Naruto, he was drawing a book and he was like looking up, and Yuna thought she was looking at him, and she was like modeling and all that. And it looks onto the picture what he was drawing. There was a trash can right next to her. And he was drawing. So she's doing all this modeling and stuff, and he was just drawing this trash can.
yeah, it's funny. Well, yeah, I'll talk to you later. See you.
Have a good one.
Here's another tip. In case you're worried that you might not like something, feel free to ask the restaurant employees what they think about it. Excuse me, have you had the scorpion pepper?
No, I haven't, but supposedly that's the one that's the hottest out of.
Yeah. Is it hot?
Trying to see like what it has in it.
I just wondered, well,
Yeah, bro. I hate when I'm talking to someone and they just like, it's just such a normal situation, and they just bring it into like a whole like hour-long conversation. It's like, holy shit. Like, you might as well just go home and talk to yourself. Like, I'm not even gonna give you the opportunity of the day. Go home, look at a wall, and talk to that. That thing will listen.
because I don't know if I can handle it. I was going to see if it was really that spicy. Just try a little bit. Okay.
I washed one of the containers.
Oh yeah, that's pretty spicy. That's pretty good. Thank you. Once you've collected enough free ingredients, head on back home because it's time to get cooking.
Hello everybody and welcome to Monkey Jones Capitalist Kitchen. Today we're going to make a special capitalist meal out of all the free ingredients that we got from local fast food restaurants. We've got a wide assortment of ketchups, mustard, Bojangles sweetener, strawberry jam from, where did I get that from? Chick-fil-A! They have strawberry jam at Chick-fil-A. Real mayonnaise from a variety of places, hot sauces. Got some Five Guys nuts. I got Five Guys nuts in a bag. 11. Some super spicy sauce according to the two Mexicans at that place. And whatever this green shit is. We're gonna pour it all into this pan. Gonna make up a capitalist stew. A delicious capitalist stew. It's gonna be great.
Oh my gosh. Please, no.
Alright, once you got all your broth in the pot, you're gonna wanna mix that up. Now come on in here and get a good shot of this mix. It's gonna look delicious, folks. You're gonna see a creamy vomit color form in the pot. And it's gonna get your appetite so ready to enjoy this delicious stew. Now, that looks pretty stewy. So get up here. You wanna get it all the way up to high, and you're gonna wait for that shit to boil. And that's when you'll add all your chunks. And those are gonna be some good chunks.
Oh, fuck.
God. Once you got a good boil going, you wanna... Jesus Christ. Okay, you wanna get your chunks in there without getting burned. There we go. That's some good chunky stuff. But go ahead and mix all that in with your boiling broth.
Oh my gosh, he still has the peanuts, like the fucking shell on it, bro. I used to do this at the end of like eating food, like all the excess shit I'd have. I'd be like, "Ooh, there's still a little bit of this." I'd mix it all up and then give it to someone. I was like a kid.
We're well on our way to making the most delicious capitalist stew I've ever seen. And when you think it's been cooking long enough, you can take it off the heat and serve it to a loved one, but more likely to yourself. I mean, most of you probably don't have too many loved ones, you know what I'm saying? Oh boy. Bon appetit! I can't wait to eat!
Oh boy, I can't wait to enjoy this capitalist meal. Let's get a completely free meal. Let's get a big old bite. Let's get a chunk in there. Got a big old peanut chunk.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. You get what you pay for when it comes to the capitalist stew. Chapter 3. Bitch and moan to make yourself feel better.
Wow, monkey, capitalism sure does sound unfair for those born into poverty. Can anything be done to fix it?
I'm glad you asked. And the answer is probably not. The rich are going to continue getting richer. The poor are going to continue to get poorer. And the capitalistic lie of the American dream will continue fooling the vast majority of the population until the end of time. But there are a few things you can do to make yourself feel better. For example, you can march on Wall Street. The best way to prove that you deserve to make more money is by sitting on the sidewalk doing absolutely nothing. Wow, you sure did show the rich elite. They definitely read your cute protest sign from all the way up in their private jets. Or you could support a presidential candidate that promises to help tackle wealth inequality. You'll just have to hope that the rich elite don't pay for his opponent to win. Oops. And finally, here's my favorite tip of all. A tip that will probably appear in all of my survival guides because it's just that good. Don't think about it. Sure, 1% of people owning 40% of a nation's wealth is absurd. And sure, many companies pay their employees an unlivable wage while the corporate fat cats rake in all of the money. But if you don't think about it, it won't bother you. Just keep living paycheck to paycheck, barely able to make ends meet while working your ass off at a job you hate, while continuously being told that you're only poor because you don't work hard enough. Keep doing all of that, but also distract yourself by spending your free time watching YouTube videos and Netflix all day. If you just keep yourself constantly hypnotized by easily consumable media, then you won't even notice when the 1% ends up with 50% of the wealth, and then 60%, and then 70%. But who fucking cares? Because hey, season 2 of Stranger Things is up now.
Yo, bro, that's crazy. That makes me look at things a lot differently, bro. Damn. Bro, this is like the best video I've seen in a minute. This video just told me how to really make it, bro. I'm just going to eat whatever is laying around and bitch and moan and not, I don't know, bro. Just get distracted easily. But nah, I think lesson to be learned. There's no way. It's hard as fuck to become a millionaire though, but it's not impossible to be like up like $50,000 to $100,000 a year. If you can get $50,000 to $100,000 a year, that's hard as fuck to do. But when you get to that area, then you're living you're just chilling. Like, I don't want to be like a multi-millionaire, but of course, you know, you never know. Yeah, I can get unlimited nuts from Five Guys. Think about that, bro. How many unlimited nuts can Five Guys give, bro? That's crazy. And not even just that, too. Like, you could just steal. Like, you just go to your local grocery store and steal and do it until you get caught. It's whatever. It's a petty theft. Who cares? More importantly, steal from the people that steal from people you don't like Walmart, you know, Ingles, whatever you, Publix. I sent you 3 of these. They are part of a series. LOL. Okay, bet. Go to the other one. Oh, no, this one looks crazy. Get a Costco membership and go there every day for free food. The stuff they're giving out. Yeah, for real. I feel like getting certified though too. Like it's one of these things where it's like you have to sort of pick and choose what to do.
In a world full of water. In a world full of social drinkers. Insane social drinkers. And loved ones. In a world full of water. Insane social drinkers. And loved ones who haven't given up on you yet. Monkey Jones, that's me. And my 2 best friends try to do the impossible. Create a guide to help you survive alcoholism.
Who the fuck are you?
I'm Asperger, the rapper.
Not really ringing a bell.
I made music for you. We've been friends for 2 years.
Conrad?
Coming up, looking out, I'll survive, no doubt. Never fear, bring it on, break it down, what's in my way?
Monkey's Declassified Alcoholism Survival Guide. Your results may vary. Alcoholism is the coping technique weak people use to run away from their problems. While many people talk about factors such as genetics and patterns in teenage binge drinking, most alcoholics are people who use alcohol as a crutch to avoid facing reality. It's a bit like video games or Netflix or YouTube videos, except this one has the added bonus of reducing your life expectancy by 12 years. Hell yeah! With alcohol, you can enjoy the opportunity to forget the things that bother you most from a few hours up to an entire night you won't even remember. It's a very popular method that 1 out of every 8 Americans takes part in so that they can block out their traumatic experiences.
Shit, fam, I left her. I'm alpha as fuck.
Wait, so are you telling me that I can forget that Jane Goodall rejected me?
That's right, Jumpy. You won't even remember who she was if you drink enough. But unfortunately, most people are under the impression that this drinking solution is really a drinking problem. But that's why I'm here, to teach you all the tips and tricks to help you survive alcoholism. Chapter 1: Hiding It. If you have a roommate or significant other, it can be hard on them to cope with your drinking problem. But it won't affect them if they don't ever realize you life hack your emotions with alcohol. Which brings us to alcoholism tip number 1. Drink in plain sight. Rather than suspiciously disappearing to drink from your hidden wine stash, just put your alcohol into containers with similarly colored drinks, like whiskey into a bottle of apple juice.
Yo.
Bitches ain't shit. Who needs them?
I was like, you're done, ho. I won't even remember you tomorrow, let alone obsess over you for How much?
Junkie, are you drunk?
I wish. This is just water and grape juice we're having.
You're acting weird.
Get off my back.
Once you become a veteran drinker, you may find yourself smelling like a Russian in a rubbing alcohol factory while in public. While people look down on the smell of alcohol on a person, some foods can provide an even stronger smell that people will be too polite to mention.
Bottoms up.
Oh.
Anti-vampire.
Even better than having to hide your alcoholism is being alone. If you have no loved ones like an expert alcoholic, then you'll have no problem enjoying your life without depression or pain. If your loved ones are giving you shit for simply making yourself feel better, then cut them out of your life. Why should you have people in your life who make you feel worse and get in the way of your happiness? Chapter 2: Drinking Cheap. Drinking at a bar can cost you an upwards of $8 per drink, and even more if you decide to spend money on an Uber to get home instead of manning up and driving. To make matters worse, most of the bars in my area don't even accept Good Boy points as currency. Luckily, every liquor store has a plethora of bargains to be taken advantage of, with brands such as Seagram's running for as little as $9 for a full bottle.
Wow! So I can get a few days worth of happiness for only $9. It sure is a good thing that I didn't spend a full week trying to sabotage Mumkey's Patreon. Oh.
Even better deals can be found if your store carries overproof alcohols such as Everclear. With an alcohol content of 95% per volume, you can be happy in less than 3 shots, giving you up to 6 days of constant happiness. Unfortunately, your body can become tolerant to alcohol and you'll end up needing more and more to kill off your depression. But even if you're down to only 2 days a bottle, it's still cheaper than phony antidepressants and therapy.
Alcoholic pro tip.
If you've run out of alcohol but are still sober enough to realize driving while drunk is risky, check the medicine cabinet. There's usually alcohol in there.
Ooh, straight from the Johnson & Johnson Brewery, boys. Ooh, this childproof caps really get ya. It's got aromas of mint. Let's see how the flavor is. You can really taste the cleansing fluorides. Only $3, kids. 25%. It's a value that can't be beat.
Chapter 3: Surviving Hangovers. Like other necessities in life, you'll need a job so that you can afford to be an alcoholic. If you find yourself needing an excessive amount of alcohol to feel happy, you may need to spend your work life in agony like everyone else. Luckily, plenty of resources exist to make life more bearable while hungover. Over-the-counter medicines can provide tons of relief in the times you have to be unhappy. If you find yourself nauseated, you can chug Pepto-Bismol and fight a headache with aspirin. Your liver can handle it. Of course, the most effective way to avoid a hangover is to continue drinking. Luckily, vodka is on your side. A few shots of vodka in a flavored coffee will fool all of your coworkers into thinking you just have a normal caffeine addiction.
I'll tell you what, Monkey. It's nice hanging out with an alcoholic like you instead of the fucking judgmental people I'm supposed to call my family. You're a fucking cool guy, dude.
Of course, drinking helps my depression.
This loser is trying to take Monkey away from me. I'll have to destroy him the first chance I get.
Yeah, man. It's been hard on me, you know? Ever since you left. I meant it every time I said that you really were my last, and I just want you to know that I really do still love you, and I mean unconditionally. No matter what you do to me or who you date or what you do in life, there's the largest place in my heart is for you.
What the fuck?
You can always come back to me, and I'll love you just the same as I did back then. And I mean that. I love you. You can always come back.
My contacts
You
like fucked up.
deserved it!
What in the fuck, bro? Okay, this is the best one.
Oh, hey, junkie! What's going on in here?
Have you ever been so madly in love with someone that you could jerk off to just their normal Facebook pictures?
No.
Monkey, I have a confession to make. I've been lying for months. I've never had sex with Jane Goodall. I've never even met her. She has no idea I exist. But I love her so much. Just the fact that she's out there in the world existing without me. It fucking hurts. The thought that I have to live the rest of my life without being by her side. It makes me wish I could just curl up and disappear.
Ah, jeez, junkie, that's rough. But it's not completely hopeless, right? I mean, have you ever considered meeting her and confessing your feelings?
My God, you might be onto something. I need to confess my love to Jane Goodall. Monkey, will you please help me?
Yeah. I was gonna jerk off to Ivana Lynch's Facebook pictures today, but I guess I'll help you out.
In a world full of reciprocated feelings, insane healthy relationships,
A lot of animal
and
divisions,
men
so
who
most
actually have the
Yeah, I
courage
do know
to
who-
ask a
I
girl
know who
out
Jane Goodall
rather
is.
than shoot up their college campus.
What?
Monkey Jones, that's me, and my feelings. Insane healthy relationships, and men who actually have the courage to ask a girl out rather than shoot up their college campus. Monkey Jones, that's me, and my two best friends try to do the impossible. Create a guide to help you survive love.
Coming up, looking out, I'll survive, no doubt. Never fear, bring it on, break it down, what's in my way?
Mumkey's Declassified Love Survival Guide. Your results may vary. Chapter 1: Attraction and Research. So, you find yourself feeling funny when you take a gander at a certain guy or gal. Maybe it's their eyes, or their smile, or the way they present themselves. In whatever case, there's something about them that speeds up your heartbeat and gets you thinking about the life you could build together. There's a name for that feeling, folks, and it's called love. Now, you might be thinking that love is a good thing, but you'd be terribly mistaken. As it turns out, 100% of emotional pain and heartbreak is caused by love. And that's especially true here in the first phase, initial attraction. The second you find yourself initially attracted to somebody, you are destined to have your heart broken in one way or another. Whether it's through rejection, regret, divorce, or you live long, happy lives together and then they fucking die. Falling in love with somebody is the only way to guarantee future pain and misery. However, there are a few steps you can take to minimize that pain. First off, you need to do your research. There's no use in hitting on a woman who is already in a relationship, as that would just lead to immediate rejection and embarrassment. So, you need to find out if she's in a relationship. One way of doing so is checking to see if she has a wedding ring, but a much better method is stalking her on the internet.
Yo, monkey, look at this! According to Wikipedia, Jane Goodall's last husband died in 1980. She hasn't gotten dick in the last 40 years. There's no way she'll reject me.
Well, hey, there you go. So how are you gonna ask her out?
Shit. I don't know.
Once you know that she's single, the next thing you'll want to research is the best possible approach. You've probably only got one shot at winning this girl over, so you better not fuck it up. Some chads will tell you that the best approach is the direct one, walking up to a girl and talking to her. But we both know that you're too fat and sweaty to pull this one off. That's why I suggest the online approach. By communicating with her through text messages on the internet, she can get to know your great personality first instead of immediately being disgusted by your physical appearance and lack of charisma. Plus, women love it when random guys send them messages online. Especially when guys get straight to the point and send a picture of their ungroomed 4-inch cock.
Oh my
All
god.
right. Jane Goodall's website has a contact page. I'll just confess my love to her here, and then she can email.
Especially when guys get straight to the point and send a picture of their ungroomed 4-inch cock.
All right. Jane Goodall's website has a contact page. I'll just confess my love to her here, and then she can email me back if she feels the same way.
Honestly, I don't see how that could possibly fail.
Dearest Jane, I'm so madly in love with you, Jane. I'm convinced that my purpose on this earth is to be your lover so that I can make you happy. Every second I spend apart from you feels like I'm depriving myself from my true purpose. And the pain and turmoil I feel from not knowing your warm embrace is far worse than anything those pussies at Dachau went through. If you like monkeys, then you're gonna love me. Passionately yours, Jumpkey Moans. And submit. And now, I wait.
Chapter 2, The Hunt.
It's been a week and still no replies. Doesn't this bitch know it's a professional courtesy to reply to business emails within 2 days?
Sometimes you may find that your first approach wasn't the best approach, but don't worry. Your first impression doesn't always have to be your last impression. If you sent a woman a text or email confessing your love only to get no response, you can always use the SMFST approach. Just send a new message saying, "Sorry, my friend sent that." Most likely, the girl you're crushing on will believe your story and will not be suspicious at all when you try to hit on her again in the future.
Lol, sorry, that was my friend using my computer. Haha. Alright, I think that worked. But what do I do now?
Well, if your first approach didn't work, then obviously you need to try a new one. Women typically reject guys the first time because they want them to keep trying in different ways. Women find stubbornness and obsession to be evidence of true passion and dedication. And they'll definitely be more likely to say yes if you ask them out multiple times.
Oh shit! Come look at this monkey! It looks like Jane Goodall is on a monkey expedition in Apewell Forest. That's probably why she never responded to my email.
Apewell Forest? That's like 200 miles from here.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Road trip!
This is a terrible idea, and it's also super creepy.
Alexa, what the fuck do you know about what women want?
Yeah, fuck off, you dumb bitch! Come on, junkie boy, let's go get you laid! All right, we're almost there. Let's just stop here at the gas station so you can buy some flowers and condoms, and we'll be good to go.
Oh man, the closer we get to her, the less sure I feel about this. I mean, why would she like me? She's a beautiful woman who could get any man she wants. And I'm just Jumpy. She's gonna say no.
Feeling nervous about asking somebody out is the #1 reason why I never got laid in college. The fear of rejection and humiliation can be paralyzing. When you are falling in love with somebody, you build them up so much in your head as being amazing and perfect that you might start to have doubts that you even stand a chance to be with them. You'll start meditating on your own faults and flaws and inabilities, all the while forgetting that the girl you're in love with has plenty of those as well. These negative thoughts will consume your soul and devolve you into a nervous wreck until you decide that you're better off not taking the risk of rejection in the first place. Then 5, 10, 20 years later, you'll be grief-stricken with regret about what could have been, and you'll grow to hate yourself for never even taking a shot, and you'll become so jaded by these thoughts that you'll never stand a chance of finding love. And this cycle of self-loathing and fear of rejection will continue on and on until you die sad and alone, still reflecting on what could have been. Which is why you need something to overcome the fear of rejection in the first place. And there's nothing better for this than alcohol.
Junkie, if you're feeling too nervous to ask her out, how about I buy you a 6-pack to help calm your nerves?
Huh. Yeah, that sounds pretty good right now. Let's give it a shot.
If there's anything that women love more than random dick pics, it's being hit on by random drunk guys. Bonus points if you're doing it at a place that isn't a bar.
All right, that hit the spot. I'm feeling so confident now that I could ask out Malia Obama.
What? Why in the fuck would you want to do that?
'Cause her sister Sasha is only 16.
Bro, what? Bro, what? Mumkey's Disclassified Love Survival Guide.
Holy shit, that's her. Oh my god. I'm actually seeing Jane Goodall with my own eyes for the first time in my life. Oh man, I'm so scared. Even with the beer, I don't think I can do this.
Junkie, I know you better than anybody. You're a great guy with a big heart. Sure, you can be a tad obsessive and jealous at times, but women love that shit. You're gonna be fine. What's the worst thing that could happen?
She'll say no?
Exactly. The worst thing that can happen is she says no. And believe me, it's much better than to be rejected than to not even try at all and waste your life wondering what could have been.
All right, I'm gonna do it. Thanks for helping me today, Mumkey. I'm actually feeling really confident about this now. There's no way she's gonna reject me.
Chapter 3: Dealing with Rejection.
Oh, hey, buddy, how'd it go?
That fucking bitch. Does she have any idea how much she means to me? How much I care about her?
1 minute left.
Everything I would do to make her happy? How much time I've spent loving her? and she just says no without even thinking. That fucking bitch. That fucking bitch.
Hey man, at least now you know it wasn't gonna work out with her. Now you can focus on starting a relationship with somebody else.
No. No, there isn't anybody else for me. If I can't be with Jane, then I can't be with anyone. This world is a cruel place, Mumkey. Nice guys like me finish last. Girls, they just want the bad guys. Well, if they want a bad guy, I'll give them a bad guy. I've owed this wicked world retribution for far too long. If society wants to give me nothing but pain and misery, then I'll give it back to them tenfold.
What? Junkie? Where the fuck are you going?
Oh yeah, check the description of this video of this live right now. I have the Discord link to it, and I have it in every single one now. I'll add you to it.
Come on, man! Do we really have to do a mass shooting survival guide next? Junkie! She's just some dumb broad! What do you mean pay it back tenfold? Oh, here it goes!
When were these made? I feel like 2004 days ago. That's crazy. I'm watching content that was made 4 days ago. I'm on it.
Oh, that's such a long... Oh, that's such a long story. You couldn't possibly want to hear about that. Well, okay. But it's nothing special. I was born in 2051, so yes, that makes me a pre-war ghoul. I do. I was in a shelter with my father when the bombs hit. In DC, we had the luxury of getting a warning after the West Coast was gone. I was just a little girl then. We couldn't afford a space in one of the vaults. I remember filing down into that shelter, my father rushing me in. He stopped to help this one family. And I looked up and called his name. There was a flash of light brighter than anything you can imagine. I woke up a few hours later. The first thing I did was run up to where my father had been. He was gone. But the strangest thing, there was his shadow, burned into the wall, so crisp and clear, like he was standing next to me. The heat had burned it into the concrete. The city was on fire for weeks, maybe months, I don't know. I hid down here in the museum. It was the closest building to the shelter I was in. But I could hear what was happening above. People howling like animals, chaos, looting, killing. It's like every foul thing inside of them came out. It was a nightmare. I don't want to talk about it. I don't know how it happens. Dr. Burroughs says it was radiation. All I know is that people kept showing up here in the museum. After things calmed down above ground, we tried to live down here as best we could. A after a while, things got strange. My skin started to get dry and flake off. Everyone's did. It took a while. Months, maybe a year. But sooner or later, everyone ended up like this. Some of them went crazy. Some of us just accepted it. After a while, other ghouls would find their way in here, and Underworld just sort of grew. No one bothered us down here. We were happy enough to leave them alone. And once my Greta showed up,
Okay. Whenever I send
it was
him,
a
I'll
good
check him
enough
out.
life for me. You tell the same story for 200 years, you'll feel pretty uninteresting too.
Damn, that's fucked up.
Out. Number 2, scaphism. Out. This was number 2, scaphism. This was a form of punishment that was used by the ancient Persian Empire on anyone that would be convicted.
Bro, what? What the fuck? Why is it skipped all the way over here though?
Let's start with the bad and slowly work our way towards the stuff of night. Let's start with the bad and slowly work our way towards the stuff of nightmares. Number 10, the Rat Dungeon. If you were alive in London, England during the medieval period, you would have definitely heard about the Rat Dungeon, since this punishment struck paralyzing fear into the hearts of even the most hardened criminals. This was a cell that was located at the bottom of the London Tower, where prisoners were shackled and chained in complete darkness. But here's the thing, the dungeon was connected to the nearby river and just below the river's waterline, so that when the water levels rose, all the rats that lived along the riverbed would be pushed out of their shelters and forced to swim downstream. This would of course lead the hungry and angry rats towards the entrance of the dungeon, where they would then come face to face with the prisoner. But to the unlucky prisoner, he never actually saw anything, and all he would hear were the soft scurries of the rats' feet entering the dungeon. And in a matter of minutes, these soft noises were in the hundreds and all around him. These angry and aggressive rats would then begin to take small bites from the prisoner, who had no way of defending himself. Now he might be able to shake the rats off for a few hours, but eventually the prisoner would pass out from pure exhaustion. And while he slept, the rats would continue to take bites from his flesh. Eventually, when he would wake up, he would discover hundreds of bites throughout his entire body. But it didn't stop there. The prisoner was left here for days or weeks on end, depending on his crime. But towards the end of the medieval period, this form of punishment just got more and more deranged, eventually becoming a form of execution, where prisoners would just be thrown in the dungeon and forgotten about. Number 9,
That's insane.
the rack. This was yet another punishment that took place in the London Tower. The rack was a torture device that was used in many places throughout history. This form of punishment was originally designed for getting a confession, usually from criminals, slaves, or prisoners of war. The device looked like a large ladder, but instead of secure steps, they would actually rotate like a rolling pin. You see, when a prisoner was placed on the rack, he would have his feet and wrists tied to a ratchet pulley system, where 2 legal officials would slowly tighten the ropes and locking them in place, placing an increasing amount of strain on the prisoner's shoulders, hips, knees, and elbows with every single turn. This was all done to get information, but of course, a lot of the times the truth was not accepted as reality, and the prisoner would then begin to say whatever he believed the officials wanted to hear. Sometimes it would work and the prisoners would be let go, while other times they would be tortured even more for lying. When the whole ordeal was over, prisoners were usually released with dislocated joints, but oftentimes they were left completely paralyzed. That was the case in England in 1447 when a 25-year-old girl named Anne Askew would be tortured on the rack for hours and hours on end and left completely paralyzed after all her joints were dislocated. She was then carried on a chair and burned alive at the stake.
Yo, what?
Because she read and memorized scriptures from the Bible, which she preached in private to a small group of women, which were the exact women she refused to name and expose during her torture. You see, during this time period, if you followed any religion other than the Catholic Church, you better not say a word to anybody, including your own husband, which was the person that turned her in. Number 8, Keel hauling. This brutal punishment was carried out at sea on sailors who would steal or be violent towards others and would usually result in death. Keel hauling would start with a sailor having his arms tied with a rope, then looped around the entire circumference of the ship before being tied off to his feet. The sailor would then be thrown overboard while the group of men on board pulled on the rope to slowly drag him around the outside of the ship, including over the keel, which is how this punishment gets its name. But a lot of the times, the sailor wouldn't even have to worry about it, since they were dead before they ever reached it. Kinda just depends on how hard the guys on the rope feel like working that day. Not only would the sailors be drowning and getting their backs and necks broken on the keel, they were also getting sliced apart like a cheese grater by all the sharp barnacles on the outside of the ship. But if by some miracle a sailor actually happens to make it all the way around the ship without dying, one of three things will happen. 1. He would be sent for round 2, and for sure be dead by then. 2. Be freed and allowed back on the ship, where he would then slowly die to infections. Or 3. Live the rest of his life single and being made fun of, since he was now fully covered in scars from head to toe. Number 7. Crushed by elephants. Now we are getting to the part of the list where living is no longer an option. This form of punishment has been used by many countries throughout history, but was most recently used by India in the 19th century, which is really not that long ago if you really think about it. Like, your great-grandma could have witnessed one of these. What type of crimes would you have to commit to be crushed by an elephant, you might ask? Well, apparently if you failed to pay your taxes, that was good enough. And of course, stealing or being an enemy soldier was also a great way to become a tortilla. But the most disturbing case in history was when the 4th Mughal Emperor of India ordered an enormous amount of criminals to be crushed to death in a single day, simply because he was bored and needed some entertainment. The guy who forgot to pay his taxes, crushed. The man who stole an apple from the local market, crushed. The little orphan who jaywalked across the street, crushed. The man who murdered his neighbor and added his remains to a large pot of tomato soup, then fed that soup to his family and watched them eat it from the shadows with a creepy smirk on his face. He's alright. Apparently he makes a damn good soup. There are a few ways that this public execution goes down, but one thing always stays the same. There's always a guy on top of the elephant controlling its every move. And this was very intentional, as this was meant to showcase just how amazing the ruling class were. I mean, look at them. They can control an elephant. Now be impressed. The first method of execution was the one that you better pray for if this was going to be your fate. Here, the criminals would have their arms tied behind their back and their heads placed on a pedestal, where it was then crushed like a grape by the elephant's foot. Now, the second method is much more cruel. The criminal would be placed flat on the floor with their arms tied behind their backs. Then the elephants would be guided to walk over the person's body, and hopefully the criminal would die on the first go. But sometimes they just end up crushing a leg or an arm, so the elephant then has to make a U-turn and try again and again and again. The final and worst way is when a highly trained elephant was guided to slowly crush the person limb by limb. They would first crush the arms, then the legs, and then poke holes in them with the tusk, until eventually dealing the final blow to the head or torso. This is the more theatrical route that rulers like the 4th Mughal love to take, and made for a truly traumatizing experience for everyone, except for the 4th Mughal. He loved it. Number 6. Impalement. Probably one of the grossest and most cruel forms of punishment on the list. This has been used by a few countries throughout history, but was most recently used in Egypt in the 17th century, usually against criminals that were highway robbers, grave thieves, or anyone who would try and start a rebellion. This punishment would start by having a criminal lay flat on their stomachs with their arms tied behind their back. They would then be sliced open with a razor to increase the size of their back door. And as soon as that incision was made, the cut would be lathered with paste to...
No, I don't know about this one. I don't know about this one. Imagine if humans wanted to watch this. Yeah. I don't know about this one. I think I know what this one is. It's where, oh my gosh. Bro, this is the one even just thinking about it gets me fucking unsettled, bro. This is not the one. This is not the one, bro. This is not the one. I do not want to look at this, bro. Already looking at this right here. Yikes, dude. Hell no. There's no good way out of it. I don't want to watch that. That's insane.
or penalty of the sack. And that's exactly what it was, just a lot more terrifying and cruel. This was an exclusive punishment for anyone that would murder their own family members. This was first seen in the 2nd century in Rome, but would later be used by the Germans in the 18th century. This all begins with a convicted murderer being placed inside a thick leather bag. But just to make sure the man isn't lonely, they would then add a dog, a rooster, a viper, and a monkey. I don't know what these animals did to deserve this, but hey, at least the evil family murderer doesn't die alone. Once all the animals are added inside the bag, it is then sewn shut, creating an almost airtight seal. Now you would think this would be horrible enough, but no, this is just the beginning, because as soon as the bag is sewn shut, it is then tossed into the ocean. But don't worry, later on, these murderers would be given the option to either be placed inside the leather bag or be sent to perform at the Colosseum, where they can perform the act of being mauled to death in front of all of their loved ones and peers. You know, at least they had the option. Number 4. Rats. This is one of the most sick punishments in all of human history, and it involves the use of rats. I will cover 2 of them here as they are very similar. The first use of this form of punishment dates back to 1568 during the 80 Years' War. A Dutch leader named Diederik Sonoy would often use this method of punishment, which involved placing a rat inside of a clay bowl, then placing it topside down on a prisoner's stomach, chest, face, or groin. Then the back of the bowl would be heated with either a torch or some coals, causing the rat to go into a full-on panic, trying to escape from the heat. And its only way out was to burrow into the human. Once inside, it would continue to chew and tear apart whatever was in its way, desperately searching for a way out. Eventually, the rat finds its way out of the maze and survives. The same could not be said for the prisoner. But the second method was much, much worse, and was highly secretive since it was used under the guidance of the dictator Augusto Pinochet, where he held power from 1976 through 1983. They called it the rectoscope, and I'm sure you have already figured out where this is going. Yes, it's exactly what you think. They would place a tube on a prisoner's back door, then insert a rat inside of the tube. The rat would then begin to burrow its way in. These people were so sick that they actually expected the prisoners to answer questions while this was going on. Eventually, the rat would find its way in and begin to move forward to find its way out. Nobody really knows how many people died from this punishment, but we do know that a ton of people went missing when this dictator was in charge. Number 3. Gibbeting. The last known use was in the early 1900s in Afghanistan. This all came to light in 1921 when the National Geographic published this image in their magazine. This was also used in the United States from time to time during the 17th and 18th century. One notable example was in Boston, Massachusetts, where a few pirates were hung at the Boston Harbor, which served as a warning to any sailors that were approaching Boston. Now let's talk about England, since they love this form of punishment so much. In England, this was used on traitors, murderers, pirates, and thieves. But after the year 1752, the Murder Act was passed, which required that all convicted murderers must be put to death by being publicly dissected or by gibbeting of some sort. And over 134 confirmed people met this fate. The most common form of gibbeting were actually cages, and they looked like this. It was an all-steel cage that was shaped tightly to the form of a human body, which was so tight that it would not allow the person inside to move. They were then hung 30 feet or more off the floor, usually on a public road or waterhole, to ensure that the most amount of people could witness this monstrosity. But I can only assume this was more annoying than anything, since every time you get thirsty and needed to fill up your container of water, you would have to deal with the dying man begging you for a sip.
Over here!
But the annoyance and torture of the public didn't stop there, because after the criminals would die in the cages, the body would be left inside to rot for years and years on end, with the locals complaining that the smell of death was so pungent that they couldn't even sleep at night. There's even been reports that some human remains stayed inside of these cages for over 20 years, before a government official would finally remember to clean it out. Number 2. Scaphism. This was a form of punishment that was used by the ancient Persian Empire on anyone that would be convicted of murder. First, the criminal would be placed inside of a boat on their backs and tied down. The boat had 4 holes cut out so that the person's arms and legs would be outside of the boat and in the water. They were then force-fed large quantities of honey and milk. until their stomachs were visibly full. They would then proceed to lather their entire body with the milk and honey as well. After all these steps were completed, he was then pushed out to the middle of the lake where he was completely exposed to the heat of the sun. But the sun would soon become the least of his worries. You see, the reason they fed him milk and honey was not because it was a great last meal, but because this combination causes the person to get extreme diarrhea, which mixed with the sweet honey attracts rodents, bugs, wasps, bees, flies, and whatever other animals live near the lake. After being tormented by the animals throughout the entire night, you would think that the daytime maybe gets a little better. No, because as soon as the sun rises the following day, the person inside of the boat gets another gigantic meal of milk and honey and an additional lathering. This would be done on a daily basis to prolong the punishment for as long as possible. It was also well documented that the rodents would continuously attempt to burrow inside of the person through their back door. They were probably trying to get a head start on their next meal. A writer named John Sonaris wrote in great detail about one of these incidents. He would go on to say that it was one of the most horrid and cruel forms of punishment since it was terribly long and seemed to have no end in sight. He wrote about a man who survived for an entire 17 days before he finally died from his wounds. Apparently, the man spent his last few days with his entire face completely covered with wasps, and his flesh rotting away filled with swarms of parasites and worms, all while being covered in his own filth. Number 1. The oubliette. Oubliette simply means to forget in French. This was a punishment that was used in many places throughout history, including in the London Tower, which had a small and confined room called Little Ease. Not only was this room pitch black, it was also so small that prisoners could not sit, stand, or lay down while inside it, and they would be left in this uncomfortable position for days on end. One of the most famous oubliettes is not the one in the London Tower, but in the neighboring district of Warwick, inside of Warwick Castle.
Imagine, bro.
Here, deep underground in the castle's dungeons, is a very small and narrow cell, completely made of stone, which has a metal door to close it shut. Prisoners were tossed inside of the cell and forgotten about, as the name implies. The prisoner would just have to sit there and wait for their inevitable death, which usually came in a few days from dehydration or starvation. Now, of course, this would be the best case scenario, because in reality, most of the time there would already be a rotting corpse inside of the cell to keep the new prisoner company. The previous occupier of the cell would serve as a daily reminder of his upcoming fate. But that's not the only companions that he will have, since the underground dungeons are completely infested with rats that have developed a taste for human flesh. But wait, there's more. These oubliettes existed in many of the castles throughout Europe, and in recent times they have actually discovered these dungeons with dozens, if not hundreds, of human remains inside of it, as proof that they were hardly ever cleaned. Like in Leap Castle of Ireland, where in 1900 during the castle's renovation, a worker found a small opening behind a wall inside of the chapel. This hole had an 8-foot drop that led to a large oubliette, and what the worker found inside shocked him, since it was filled with so many skeletons that they needed multiple cartloads to clear it all out. But just when you think this section is over, it just keeps on giving. You see, there's been many stories of men who have been placed inside one of these dungeons and kept alive for years and years on end, surviving off crumbs of food and minimal amounts of water, prolonging their inevitable demise for as long as humanly possible. These cells were sometimes even placed on ground level so they can hear the voices and laughter of the people outside. An experience that they will never get again in this lifetime.
Terror Cloud. This dude is funny as hell.
screaming my name and I don't like it. I wasn't screaming your name. I didn't even know your name. Someone's calling your name. I think so. What? Out! That was not us.
I don't care. Out.
That was not us.
I'm out.
See? Oh my god, I told you that was not us.
I'm sorry. We thought it was you. That's on me. I apologize.
No, that wasn't us. You heard that?
Yeah, one of their employees had gone missing.
You think that missing employee was the one who's screaming right now? Or it could be a ghost.
Was either to stop for him or not. I'm gonna
Wait,
have security.
It wasn't them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, I never saw a person. I just heard the scream. These guys didn't do it.
That literally wasn't us.
That's so cool. Listen, for the TikTok.
I'm telling you right now, that was not us. I already told you guys to check the cameras. I'm so serious right now.
How did
see
I
what you guys
seriously?
mean? No.
There it goes again. Oh,
They can be TikTok aside. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Tyler, come help me, baby!
Oh no, I'm gonna light that shit. Where'd you send it at? Oh, this right here.
Hello. I like rusty spoons. I like to touch them. The feeling of rust against my salad fingers is almost orgasmic. I must find the perfect spoon. Hello there, young child. I'm here to inquire about your spoons. Might I ask where you keep the spoons? I see. Then I must leave. But first, I'd like to caress this rusty kettle. Oh.
This is 11 years old.
Hello. Today I'm having a little get together with my friends.
Oh, it is. It is. I saw check it.
Hello there, chaps. You arrived earlier than I expected. And might I say, you are looking rather splendid this evening. This is Hubert Cumberdale, Marjorie Stewart Baxter, and this is Jeremy Fisher. Say hello. I wonder what you taste like. Marjorie Stewart Baxter, you taste like sunshine dust.
Teeth.
Ugh. Hubert Cumberdale, you taste like Sutton poo. I've got a fish in the oven, if anyone's interested.
Alors, Nabila, comment t'appelles-tu? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a?
Help. Help me. Help. Oh, thank goodness. I think the heavens must have sent you. I've got a fish cooking in the oven, but I just can't reach it. It's right at the back. With your supple little frame, you might be able to squeeze in and get it for me. It's right at the back. I can't thank you enough for Oh, I like it when the red water comes out. I like it when the red water comes out of my... Oh, yeah. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once. Hubert Cumberdale, fancy seeing you here. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue. Somewhere over the rainbow. I must have dozed off. That fish smells about done.
Damn.
Hello. Today, I've been enjoying the pleasures of nettles. Oh, what's this rather queer-looking contraption? You can be called a nettle carrier. There you go. seems Nettles have made the milk drop out from inside my teat. The nettles make me think happy times. Oh, bubble trumps. Oh, hello. You've picked a rather late hour to be visiting me. Have you got a name? I think you're called Milford Cubicle. Why don't you come in? You can have a sit down and rest those weary legs. I'll give you a little hand if you're feeling rather fatigued, Milford Cubicle. Is that comfortable? I say, would you like a warm glass of milk, Milford Cubicle?
What the what?
Hello. Today I'm going to try and find France because I've always wanted to go there. But that little boy has been watching me for a while now. I think I'll find France another day. Hello there, Birdwas. I've been thinking about you. What have you been gathering today, little sister? Really?
I can't. What happened? Is my audio on? I need to post some clips. I'm probably gonna get back into reacting part tomorrow, but I'm gonna do a follow-up episode. 15. Today was sort of just a reaction, also testing. It wasn't a real stream all the way. I just wanted to do some for clips. let me find here. Okay, so I got all my recordings. I'm in direct post. Let me go over to DaVinci. Alright, let's go over to DaVinci. I don't even know how many videos I have. It's crazy to think majority of it was that one fucking video. Okay, so I'm gonna start recording on this because I'm gonna edit this. All right, let's go over to Eco. Okay, so I'm gonna start recording on this because I'm gonna edit this. All right, let's go over to Eco. Eco sent me a lot of stuff.
For everyone to play.
Damn, this
Social
video was
game
already.
weeks early. So 18 huge features coming to the early access version of Inzoi that you need to access. And so yes, there's gonna be that person have released a roadmap detailing the new features coming during this the ROG Zephyrus G6 ready to act up, but in yes, that's what
Watch a trailer on that.
the older view to a more top-down view. Objects that you may meet on the streets can also be messed around if you physically
I'll
touch
zoom
them
out of
since they
this.
have this physics for some reason. And yes, you can
I'm
even directly
asking
control the
out my
buttons instead.
crush tomorrow. Good luck, bro. Just be yourself, man.
Before Inzoi, though
How long have you known her for? Resize timeline. Be like that. Okay. How much on this? Ripple override. Close up is on top. Source override. Append. How do I clip up on this? View color workspace. I've noticed this 5th grade. I'm 14, so I'm in 8th or 9th. Oh hell yeah, bro! You get the set. You get the feeling that she likes you too.
Lång rapport med CEOs Nero fibrilletsat. Makes an Israel not the notion of him around the winner saying that
Oh, that's how I do it. I'm stupid as shit. What? How do I crop? Yep, boom. That might work. Wait a second, what? How does it do not do that? This. Alright, let's go over to Eco. I'm about to change it to where I could post on this YouTube account immediately. But it should be good. This. Alright, let's go over to Eco. Eco sent me a lot of stuff.
So they will, and you can modify its color using color.
How's this not loading? I'm about to just reopen. So I have to wait on this one for a little bit. But it's also a 26-minute video, so it's pretty hard. Oh.
Easy there. Don't shoot, Professor. Right? I heard about you. You off the Freedom Trail, cleared out Switch.
this video will not edit. Let's open up YouTube Studios. Man, that's gonna take way longer than I want to. XXX. Yeah, leave site. I'm in live. I'm gonna be going live again tomorrow, and it's gonna be a for real live. So if you see this video later, make sure to join up because it's gonna be